In our world, some things are simply considered junk. For one young man, junk becomes his entire reality when he is transported to another world, gifted a strange and seemingly useless power, the skill to collect it. But what this new world discards is sometimes far from useless. Holding a dark, jagged sword, his heart hammers in his chest, realizing this piece of junk is more powerful than anything he could have imagined. A single, unblinking eye stares back at him from the hilt, and he can't help but wonder who would ever throw away something so obviously dangerous. A new adventure is about to begin, an adventure built from the discarded things no one else wants, and he will soon show them all the power of junk. But our story begins earlier, in a rowdy tavern, where the leader of his party, a man named Kenichi, tells him he's fired. His face drains of color, pure shock and disbelief twisting his features. Standing alone, he asks Kenichi what he means, but his former friends just continue their feast, refusing to even look his way. For half a year, this group of 7 was hailed as heroes, summoned to this world to defeat a great evil and protect its people. But now, the tavern patrons whisper and point, mocking him and wondering how such a joke could have ever been part of the hero's party. Kenichi just laughs, cruelly suggesting he use his garbage-picking skill to help himself. But Hirotaka's fists clench in frustration. With a serious look, he decides to show them. He reaches out his hand. A bright, sparkling light begins to gather in his open palm. It grows brighter and brighter, swirling into a perfect, glowing circle. With a soft shimmer, a small glass bottle appears from thin air. This is his skill, junk collection, an ability that randomly collects one abandoned item from anywhere in the world. Once every 12 hours, Ichi and the woman beside him stare back and is utterly bored. The other people in the tavern look on, completely unimpressed. Hirotaka holds up the bottle, trying to force a smile as he announces it's a healing potion. A good find this time, but his words are met with a roar of laughter from the entire tavern. Kenichi sneers, telling him the potion is worthless since they already have a healer and it would sell for barely anything. He continues his insults, saying it's embarrassing for a 32-year-old man to be taken care of by people younger than him. Hirotaka finally snaps, shouting back that in this world his body and his mind are now that of a 17-year-old. No one listens. The insults keep coming, calling him useless, a disgrace, a burden, as plates and forks are thrown at him. He stands frozen, his eyes wide with hurt and shock. He looks around at the jeering faces, weakly protesting that they don't have to be so cruel. But his sadness hardens into anger, and he grits his teeth, declaring that he doesn't want to be in a place like this anyway. As he turns to leave, Kenichi calls out one last time, demanding he return the equipment the party gave him. Hirotaka freezes, his face falling into shadow, utterly speechless. Kenichi glares at him, his eyes cold and unforgiving. Clinging to the only things that are truly his, Hirotaka grabs his bags of collected junk, shouting that he will never hand them over. He is thrown from the tavern, tumbling down the steps as his precious junk scatters around him. From the ground, he points an accusing finger at the closed door, yelling that they aren't heroes at all, just people who want to live in luxury. Inside, the laughter continues, his words completely ignored. Alone on the street, he tugs at his hair in pure, agonizing frustration. He sits on the cold stones, surrounded by his bags, and quietly admits to himself that maybe they were right. Maybe he is useless. His mind flashes back to his old life, to his job as a junk collector, where unwanted things were a part of his everyday world. He remembers one day, after loading up his truck, thinking the job was done. But then he notices a small, lonely teddy bear left behind on the edge of the truck bed. He carries the bear back to the front door, telling the mother it must have been mixed in with the junk by mistake. She barely even looks at it, simply telling him they don't need it anymore and that he can throw it away with the rest. Inside, her little girl is already hugging a brand new toy, the old bear completely forgotten. He stands there holding the unwanted stuffed animal, a profound sadness washing over him. He drives away, leaving the little bear to sit alone on the back of the truck, truly abandoned. Back in the present, he thinks about how lonely that bear must have felt, and wonders if he's strange for feeling the exact same way. He slumps to the ground, surrounded by his bags, completely lost and unsure of what to do now. Night falls on the unfamiliar city. He is all alone, abandoned by everyone he knew in this strange new world. He has no money, no equipment, and all he owns is this small bag of junk. A small, bitter smile crosses his face. His situation is so hopeless, it's almost funny. But then, something inside him shifts. A quiet determination begins to burn in his eyes. Looking up at the stars, he decides that self-pity is useless. It's time to show this world the skills of a former junk collector. He opens one of his bags, spilling its contents onto the cobblestones. He sits on the quiet street and begins to carefully sort through the broken pieces and scraps of metal, his old instincts taking over. He picks up a worn metal gauntlet, noticing the dents and scratches that cover its surface. He imagines the adventurer who once wore it, wondering about the incredible sights they must have seen and the battles they must have fought. Holding the gauntlet, he examines the faint old bloodstains that mar the metal. He knows that even if an object is discarded, even if it grows old and loses its shape, the memories and the history of the people who used it can never truly be erased. This is why he loves junk. A genuine smile finally appears on his face. Despite the mockery from his former friends, he is truly glad to have his junk collection skill. The sun rises, casting a warm, hopeful light over the town. With a new sense of purpose, he makes his way to a small shop. Holding his bags of sorted materials, he walks inside, politely announcing that he has some items to sell. A large, strong-looking shopkeeper greets him, and Hirotaka feels a flutter of nervousness, hoping the man will see some value in his goods. The shopkeeper takes one of the bags, his expression becoming serious as he looks inside. Hirotaka's heart sinks as he braces for rejection, imagining the man will refuse to buy his garbage. He begins to speak passionately, insisting that just because something is called garbage doesn't mean it has no value. But the shopkeeper isn't listening. He pulls out a piece of armor and asks if Hirotaka disassembled it himself. Hirotaka quietly confirms that he did, explaining that he thought it would be easier to reuse the old materials that way. The shopkeeper looks genuinely impressed, remarking that it takes a great deal of skill and knowledge to disassemble armor so cleanly. He compliments Hirotaka on his careful work, and Hirotaka sheepishly admits that mentally he's actually 32 years old. Impressed by his craftsmanship, the shopkeeper offers him a generous price: 6 silver coins. Hirotaka's face lights up with pure, uncontainable joy as he thanks the man with all his heart. He walks out of the shop, standing tall in the street with a newfound sense of confidence. He watches the townspeople go about their day, a new, exciting idea beginning to form in his mind. He realizes that maybe, just maybe, he could be happy living as a junk collector in this world. A life of leisure, with no bosses and no quotas. He might even be better at it here than he ever was before. But his excitement quickly fades as a hard reality sets in. Later, sitting alone in a forest, he sighs, realizing he can't make a living when his skill only works once every 12 hours. His hope begins to waver again as he wonders if his skill, and by extension, himself, truly is as useless as everyone says. Deciding he needs another source of income, he begins to forage for medicinal herbs he can sell in town. As he gathers some plants, a soft rustling in the bushes catches his attention. A tiny, fluffy white creature that looks like a mouse peeks out from the leaves. A happy smile spreads across his face. The little creature is adorable, but his smile vanishes in an instant as the single mouse is joined by a massive horde of monstrous rats with razor-sharp teeth. He lets out a blood-curdling scream and runs for his life. As he flees, he remembers that he always left the fighting to the others in the hero's party, completely forgetting how dangerous this world can be. Unarmed and terrified, he frantically tries to think of what to do. Just as a monster lunges, a sudden realization hits him. He skids to a stop and spins around, thrusting his hand forward. It's perfect timing. His skill is ready to be used again. He squeezes his eyes shut, desperately wishing for any kind of weapon, even a rusty old sword. He calls upon his skill, junk collection, pouring all his desperation into a single plea for a weapon. Dark, shadowy energy suddenly swirls around his outstretched hand. The dark power erupts from the ground before him in a great, violent burst. He watches in stunned silence as the shadows twist and gather. The swirling darkness begins to form the shape of a blade. It solidifies in his palm, the handle wrapping around his hand like living tentacles. When the energy fades, he is holding a wicked-looking dark dagger. He stares at the impossible weapon, his mind racing, wondering what in the world it is. But there's no time to think. The monstrous rats surround him, their sharp teeth and glowing eyes fixed on their prey. With a terrified yell, he squeezes his eyes shut and swings the new dagger wildly. The weapon moves with impossible speed, a blur of dark energy that slices through several of the monsters in a single motion. The creatures fall to the ground defeated as he stands in the clearing, breathing heavily but unharmed. The remaining rats, terrified by the dagger's power, squeak and scurry away into the safety of the woods. Hirotaka lets out a huge sigh of relief, his body trembling. He's safe. He looks down at the weapon in his hand, amazed that it cut through the monsters so easily, despite being a piece of discarded junk. He stares at the strange, almost living design of the dagger. If this is what this world considers junk, he wonders what other incredible things are out there, just waiting to be found. A grateful smile spreads across his face as he thanks the dagger for saving his life, even if it is just an object. He holds it tightly, admiring its strange and wonderfully creepy appearance. Looking at the defeated monsters, he remembers that adventurers can sell materials from the creatures they defeat. His eyes sparkle with excitement at the thought of finally making some real money. Feeling incredibly lucky, he happily begins to gather his unexpected bounty. But a sudden, high-pitched scream from deeper in the forest startles him. He stands and looks toward the sound, realizing someone is in desperate trouble. He panics, his first thought to run and find an adult for help. Then he remembers. With his 32-year-old mind, he is the adult here. He runs toward the scream and finds a young girl facing a gigantic, ferocious bear, bravely telling the monster to stay back. She trembles with fear but tries to stand her ground, threatening to use magic if it takes another step. Her eyes are wide with pure terror, reflecting the monstrous beast before her. The monster roars and charges, ignoring her completely. She lets out a scream, but just in the nick of time, Hirotaka leaps between them, blocking the bear's massive claws with his small dagger. The girl looks up at him, her expression a mix of shock and pure relief. He gives her a quick, reassuring smile, thankful that he made it in time. The impact of the attack is immense. The force of the blow sends him flying backward through the air. He crashes hard onto the forest floor, groaning in pain. The terrifying bear now turns its full attention to him, and he realizes that a bear in this world is on a whole different level of dangerous. The girl watches in horror as the monster looms over her rescuer. The beast takes a heavy, thundering step toward him. Lying on his back and looking up, Hirotaka knows he is in serious trouble. The girl knows she has to do something. She has to help him. She raises her staff, pointing it at the bear, preparing to cast a spell. Her staff begins to glow, but as she tries to speak the magic words, her voice stammers and fails her. Panic seizes her, her breath catching in her throat, her mind unable to focus. Despair washes over her as she remembers it's always like this. Whenever someone needs her, she freezes. She thinks of all the times she has failed in the past, unable to help her teacher or even her sick grandfather. Convinced she is completely useless, she believes they are both going to die, and it's all her fault. But from the ground, Hirotaka tells her not to worry. He pushes himself to his feet and says he'll take care of this. The girl looks at him, completely surprised by his unwavering determination. Instead of his dagger, he grabs a thick, sturdy tree root from the ground. He thinks to himself that this is much better than a small knife. With a powerful shout, he rips the entire root from the earth, wielding it like a giant club. He glares at the bear, telling it not to underestimate the strength he built from years of hard work. He charges forward and swings the heavy root, shouting that the bear will pay for knocking him down. The root slams into the bear's side with incredible force. The monster's eye twitches, but the attack barely seems to affect it. With a low growl, the bear stands its ground, its thick fur having absorbed the blow. Hirotaka grits his teeth. His plan didn't work. He needs a new one. He switches back to his dagger and dashes in close, looking for a weak spot. He plunges the dagger straight into the monster's glowing eye, but the blade doesn't go deep enough. He realizes the wound is too shallow. He knows he is at a huge disadvantage. Defeating a beast this large with just a knife seems impossible. He feels a flash of frustration, wishing he had a weapon with a longer reach. Just as he thinks it, the dagger in his hand begins to pulse with a strange energy. He watches in shock as the weapon starts to change shape right in his hand. The dark, organic material of the handle stretches and grows, lengthening the blade. His eyes widen in disbelief. The knife is transforming into a full-sized sword. When the transformation completes, the hilt is now covered in eerie, unblinking eyes that all seem to be staring directly at him. The enraged bear roars and lunges forward, not giving him a moment to react. He instinctively raises the strange new sword to defend himself. He swings with all his might, bringing the blade down on the charging monster. The sword slices through the massive bear as if it were made of nothing. The monster is cut cleanly in two, its halves falling to the ground on either side of him. The girl stands frozen a short distance away, her mouth open in absolute astonishment. She can only whisper a single word: amazing. Hirotaka looks at the transformed sword in his hand, just as stunned as she is. He can't believe it. He defeated that monster with just one swing. He stares at the weapon, realizing it can change its shape, is impossibly sharp, and feels like it's watching him. A shiver runs down his spine. What is this incredibly powerful and dangerous sword? But his fear is quickly replaced by pure, childish excitement as he runs around in circles, shouting about how cool his new sword is. He stops and holds the sword gently, asking it, "What in the world are you?" In response, a puff of black smoke drifts from the blade. The smoke gathers in the air before him, not disappearing. It forms a dark cloud filled with glowing, mysterious symbols. He squints, trying to read the floating text, but he doesn't fully understand the language. He manages to make out just two words: demon sword. Just then, the girl approaches him and bows deeply, thanking him for saving her life. He quickly holds up a hand, telling her it was okay and apologizing that she got caught in the middle of it. He smiles, his face showing genuine kindness as he says he's just happy he could help. The girl looks up, her expression still filled with worry and shame. She offers to heal his wounds, explaining that she is a cleric. She holds up her staff, which begins to glow with a faint, gentle light. She starts to chant a prayer for her healing magic, but her voice falters and she stumbles over the words. She tries again, but the words just won't come out right. Her nervousness is getting the better of her body trembling. Her eyes swirl with dizziness as she struggles to focus her mind. With a final, desperate effort, she tries to force the spell out, but it's no use. She breaks down, starting to cry and apologize as Hirotaka watches with concern. Through her tears, she admits that she feels useless, a cleric who can't even use healing magic when it counts. She lowers her head, expecting him to agree with her, while Hirotaka listens quietly. She stands there, trembling, feeling completely and utterly worthless. But Hirotaka surprises her, suddenly asking if she could try casting the healing spell on him one more time. The girl looks up, confused. He tells her that he understands why she gets so nervous and blames herself. He explains that it's because she has a strong desire to be useful to others and meet their expectations. He smiles and tells her that her genuine wish to help him is already the best medicine he could ever receive. He encourages her, saying it's perfectly okay if she fails, but he just wants her to try again. A single tear traces a path down her cheek. His words, "It's okay, even if you fail," echoing in her heart. Hirotaka watches her with a kind, patient smile, admitting softly that no one had ever said anything so kind to him before, either. Taking a deep breath, Lisa's hands tighten around her staff, his words giving her a new sense of determination. She stands tall and begins to chant the prayer for healing, her voice clear and steady this time. Hirotaka watches her, a gentle and encouraging smile on his face. With her eyes full of hope, she finishes the spell, asking her god to ease his suffering. It works. A soft, warm light envelops Hirotaka as the healing spell is successfully cast. He looks at his hand as a warm, tingling sensation spreads through him, his cuts and bruises vanishing. He playfully holds up his perfectly healed hand, exclaiming how smooth his skin is, and Lisa gasps, whispering in disbelief, "I did it!" Hirotaka's eyes sparkle with pride for her, telling her that she can do anything when she truly tries. He gives her a big, happy smile and congratulates her on her success. Lise blushes, her heart fluttering with a mix of relief and happiness she hasn't felt in a long time. He raises his hand for a high five, and with a bright, confident smile, she meets his hand with her own. A huge, radiant smile lights up her entire face. She is truly happy. Watching her, he can't help but smile too, thinking to himself that her joy is cute. Now that the danger has passed, he realizes they haven't been properly introduced, so he turns to her and asks for her name. In the quiet of the forest, she tells him her name is Lise. He replies, "I'm Hirotaka. It's nice to meet you." Lise, feeling more comfortable now, looks at the strange weapon in his hand and asks him about it. He casually explains that it's called the demon sword Osoro, just some strong junk he found, but her face goes pale with shock. Her voice trembles as she asks if he is really the owner of a demon sword. Her eyes widen as she reveals a shocking truth. In this world, possessing a demon sword is proof that you are a demon king. Far away, in a dark and twisted land, stands a massive, evil castle. Inside, a powerful figure demands to know how one of his subordinates could have lost their demon sword. Another demon laughs, mocking the demon king of sloth, while a nervous voice warns someone named Sir Gisela to be careful not to anger Lord Tristan. A small, horned girl, Gisela, nervously insists that she didn't lose the sword. It was stolen from her. Lord Tristan, a tall and muscular man with wild red hair, looms over the terrified Gisela. His presence is terrifying, radiating immense and suffocating power. He speaks of the pride of demon kings, who are meant to be stronger and freer than anyone else in the world. He then grabs her head, his voice cold and sharp, telling her that a weakling who allows their sword to be stolen is no demon king at all. His eye glows with intense fury as he gives her a single, simple command: "Go find it." With a mighty heave, he throws her from the castle tower, his voice booming as he calls her a garbage demon king. As Gisela soars through the dark sky, she grumbles to herself about how much of a bother this all is. Far from the castle, she shouts into the wind, wondering who could have possibly stolen her precious demon sword, Osoro. Her expression twists with rage as she vows to kill whoever took it. Back in the peaceful town, Lise quietly processes everything she has just learned. As they walk, she recounts the story. Hirotaka had found a legendary demon sword simply by chance, using his junk collection skill. She breathes a sigh of relief, concluding that someone as kind as Hirotaka couldn't possibly be a real demon king. Hirotaka, however, is lost in thought, the words demon king echoing in his mind. He remembers the very reason he was brought to this world, to join the other heroes and defeat the 7 demon kings who threaten this world's order. He turns to Lise and asks a simple question: "Are the demon kings really that bad?" Her expression becomes serious as she tells him they are far worse than just bad, with one of them having once destroyed an entire nation. He looks at Osoro, now understanding that the demon kings gain their incredible power by making a contract with a magic sword like this one. A small, mischievous smile appears on his face as he thinks that if the hero's job is to fight demon kings, it was probably for the best that he was kicked out of their party. As they continue on their way, Lise looks at him with a worried expression. She asks him what he plans to do with the demon sword now that he knows of its terrifying nature. She can't help but imagine the sword's dark power, which is said to grant the deepest and often evil desires of its wielder. Hirotaka looks down at the sword, a thoughtful expression on his face, and tells her he has made his decision. He smiles warmly and declares, "I'm going to take good care of this guy." Lise stares at him, completely surprised. Take care of a demon sword? Hirotaka remembers how the sword had appeared to save him, not once, but twice, when he was completely alone. He holds the sword up proudly, announcing that Osoro is more than just a weapon to him. It's his partner. Lise looks at him, her heart filled with pure admiration. She thinks to herself that he is a truly amazing person, taking a weapon known only for evil and treating it with such kindness. Inspired by his unique way of seeing the world, she wonders if maybe she could change for the better, too. She speaks up, offering what she can, telling him that she can use healing magic and has a vast knowledge of herbs and spells. With a deep blush and her hands clenched with nervous energy, she asks him if he would please allow her to become his companion. She gets a bit carried away, shouting that she would do anything for him if he agreed. Hirotaka responds immediately and bluntly, "No way." Lise is so shocked she can't speak. He explains that her offer to do anything is wrong, because companions are equals who are supposed to help each other. He points a thumb at his chest and tells her that for their partnership to work, she will have to rely on him just as much as he relies on her. He then adds with a sheepish grin that he's currently unemployed and his skill isn't very impressive, so she might be disappointed. Lise quickly reaches out and takes his hand in hers. She looks him in the eyes and says that isn't true at all, believing his junk collection skill is kind and wonderful because it finds and values things that other people have carelessly thrown away. Her smile is full of genuine admiration. He is completely caught off guard by her heartfelt words, and a faint blush appears on his face. He gently squeezes her hand, accepting her as his first true companion. With a shy smile, he thanks her, feeling a warmth that has nothing to do with magic. Suddenly, a new voice cuts in. A cheerful girl with cat ears and glasses appears out of nowhere, pointing at Hirotaka and shouting, "Unemployed!" Before he can react, she grabs him by the shirt and starts dragging him away, excited that she has found someone without a job. He yells in confusion, asking who she is and where she's taking him, while Lise looks on in shock. The cat girl is surprisingly strong, dragging him down the street with ease as she happily tells him to come this way. She comes to a sudden stop, announcing, "We've arrived," leaving Hirotaka face down on the ground. She spreads her arms wide and proudly welcomes them to her Adventurers Guild, the White Cat's Mistletoe. She introduces herself as Rona, the guildmaster, receptionist, and official poster girl for the guild. She presents a membership registration form with a flourish, offering Hirotaka a chance to become an adventurer if he's looking for work. Rona poses cheerfully, clearly very proud of her little guild. In this world, a guild is an organization where adventurers can accept quests from people to earn a living. Hirotaka and Lise look at the small, quiet building, both of them a little confused. They step inside and are greeted by an empty room. There are no other adventurers, no noise, and no activity at all. He notices how empty it is and asks if they actually get any quests. Rona confidently replies that they get them in droves. He presses her, asking exactly how many quests in droves is. An awkward silence fills the room as Rona can't come up with an answer. To change the subject, she quickly makes another offer. If they register to join her guild right now, she'll let them stay in a room on the second floor for free. Rona puffs out her chest proudly, admitting that they have plenty of spare rooms because no one else is there. She pushes again, asking Mr. Unemployed what he thinks of her offer, and he sighs, reminding her that his name is Hirotaka. He thinks about it for a moment. He has a companion, a powerful weapon, and now a place to live and work. He looks at Rona and says, "All right, I'll register." Rona suddenly bursts into fake tears, dramatically calling him a heartless vagabond for making her wait. Hirotaka just deadpans, remarking on how energetic she is. Lise turns to Hirotaka, asking if he's really sure about joining such a rundown guild. He looks around the simple but clean room, telling her that while the guild is old, it's well maintained, and having a place to live is a huge help. He smiles at Rona, saying he can tell the guild is important to her, which is why she's trying so hard to recruit them. He finishes by saying that any place cherished and cared for by someone is a good place to be. Rona is so touched by his kind words that she is left completely speechless. A huge, beaming smile spreads across her face, and she thanks him with all her heart. Her sweet expression quickly turns mischievous, and she playfully warns him that there's no backing out now, or she'll draw embarrassing pictures of him and post them all over town. A few moments later, the paperwork is complete. Rona hands them their official membership cards. Hirotaka turns to Lise, apologizing for making the decision for both of them, but she smiles and says that if it was what he decided, then she agrees completely. Rona hears Lise's name and pauses, a curious look on her face. She taps her chin, thoughtfully murmuring that the name Lise sounds familiar for some reason. Hirotaka looks down at his new adventurer's card, which reads, Hirotaka Hirota. A small, hopeful smile forms on his lips. An adventurer, huh? He thinks to himself. He clenches his fists, feeling a new wave of excitement. He knows he couldn't have made it this far alone, but now, with Osoro and Lisa by his side, he is ready for whatever comes next. As Rona looks over Lisa's registration form, her eyes suddenly go wide with shock. She stares at the paper. Name. Skill. Blessing of shock. Rona gasps, exclaiming that she finally remembers where she had heard that name before. Lise looks terrified, clutching her staff as Rona connects the dots between her powerful skill and her famous last name. Rona points dramatically at Lise, revealing that she is the daughter of Lord Montaigne, the ruler of their town. Lisa quickly lunges forward to cover Rona's mouth. Panicked, Lise tries to explain that she is only a trainee cleric on a simple training journey, as Rona realizes she has stumbled upon a huge secret. Rona understands and promises to keep Lisa's identity a secret at the guild. Lise quietly apologizes for the trouble, but Rona's mind is already racing, seeing this as a golden opportunity to get guild funding or even have their taxes lowered. Pushing her scheming thoughts aside, she cheerfully asks her two new recruits what they will name their adventurer party. Hirotaka looks at her, surprised by the question. A party name? Rona explains that most adventurers choose names that show what they stand for, giving a few examples. Hirotaka jokingly suggests a name that would give them a good work-life balance, with 3 days off every week, while Rona imagines him working tirelessly for her guild. He continues his joke, shouting out slogans about workers' rights, leaving Lise completely speechless. Then, Lise shyly offers a suggestion. The Junketeers, explaining that Hirotaka's kindness made her feel like even a useless person could try their best. Hirotaka and Rona both turn to look at her. Lise blushes deeply, feeling a bit embarrassed for speaking up. She becomes flustered and waves her hands, immediately apologizing and asking them to forget she said anything. But Hirotaka's face lights up with a huge, happy grin. He thinks the name is perfect. He stands tall and makes a grand announcement. The newest adventurer party of the White Cat's Mistletoe Guild, the Junketeers, is officially formed. With a confident thumbs up, he declares that they will show the world their junk spirit. Lise looks at him with a warm, gentle smile, her eyes sparkling with happiness. Rona gets fired up, telling Hirotaka that the very fate of her guild now rests on his shoulders. Hirotaka rolls up his sleeves, getting excited, and declares that they have to do their best on the quests to cover their living expenses. Starting tomorrow, their first day as an official party is about to begin. The next morning, a bright sun rises over the mountains, shining down on the town. It is a beautiful day at the guild, perfect for a fresh start. Inside, Hirotaka gathers his new teammates, telling them it's time to do their daily ritual. He holds out his hand and shouts, activating his junk collection skill. Rona watches with interest, admitting she has never heard of such a skill before. Lise excitedly explains to Rona that it's an incredible skill that can summon rare and amazing items. Hirotaka is optimistic, hoping to get another fantastic item like his demon sword. The three of them huddle together, their faces filled with eager anticipation as his hand begins to glow. With a little pop, a new item appears from a puff of smoke. He is left holding a small pair of frilly white underwear. He stares at the unexpected item, his expression completely frozen in disappointment. Lise and Rona both blush furiously, stunned into silence. He quickly tries to explain that he has no control over what the skill brings him, waving his hands in a panic. As he shakes the underwear, something small and folded slips out from inside it. A dirty, worn piece of parchment flutters down toward the wooden floor. Lise notices it fall and bends down to pick it up, wondering what it could be. Hirotaka and Rona crowd around her to get a better look. When Lise unfolds it, they all gasp. It looks like a treasure map. Lise recognizes the location, explaining that the map shows the tomb of a legendary magician named Cain. She holds the map up for them to see, pointing to a big X that marks where the treasure is hidden. Hirotaka stares at the map, the word treasure echoing in his mind. He imagines a huge, sparkling chest overflowing with gold and jewels. His eyes light up with adventure. He declares that they have to go on a treasure hunt immediately. Rona anxiously reminds him that they are supposed to be doing guild quests. He cleverly reasons that if they find the treasure, they can use it to help promote the guild, and she can't argue with that. She reluctantly agrees, but tells him to prioritize his life over the treasure, while also making it very clear he has to find it. Lise brings up a good point, warning that the tomb is probably protected by monsters. Hirotaka notices the dark stains on the map are dried blood, suggesting the previous owner ran into trouble. But he isn't discouraged, confidently telling them that with Osoro's power and Lisa's support, they will be fine. His mind is made up, his face set with determination. With a powerful thumbs up, he announces their first official quest, a journey to Eureka Valley to find the treasure. And so, their adventure begins, as they travel out of town and into the wilderness, heading for the legendary tomb. When they finally arrive, they stop in their tracks, completely amazed by the sight before them. Carved into the face of a massive cliff is a stone entrance so large and grand it looks more like a gateway to a lost city. As they step inside, the sheer scale of the place takes their breath away, and Hirotaka feels more confident than ever that real treasure awaits. Lise notices the new, custom-made leather sheath Hirotaka has for Osoro, keeping the powerful sword safely at his side. He explains with a proud smile that he had it specially made, because it's important to take good care of his partner. He pats the sheath and playfully asks Osoro if it's happy with its new home. But his cheerful moment is cut short as a massive, horrifying monster made of bones appears from the shadows behind him. A giant skeleton warrior, armed with a sword carved from bone, looms over them. Lise and Hirotaka both scream in terror at the sight of the monster. Hirotaka tries to stay calm, telling himself it's just a monster and not a ghost, but Lise insists that this is no time for jokes. The skeleton raises its weapon, ready to strike them down. Without a moment's hesitation, Hirotaka draws Osoro and charges forward. In a flash of movement, he swings his sword and the skeleton monster shatters into hundreds of pieces. Lise watches in awe as the bones clatter to the stone floor, defeated in an instant. She praises him for his amazing skill, and he shoots her back a cool peace sign. Just then, a strange, dark energy begins to swirl around Osoro's blade. The dark smoke forms into glowing letters once again. He reads the floating text and discovers that his sword has learned a new skill. Undead Attribute Bestowal. Lise has never heard of such a skill, guessing from the name that it has the power to turn its target into an undead creature. They both wonder what the purpose of such a strange skill could be. Hirotaka shrugs, deciding it's probably a useless skill that they will never need. Osoro, however, reveals that it has another new skill called Longsword, pleased that Hirotaka is so perceptive. With a loud metallic sound, the sword begins to transform, growing longer and thicker into a massive, jagged greatsword. The hilt of the sword morphs into the shape of a terrifying dragon skull, and both Hirotaka and Lise stare, amazed at its powerful new form. Hirotaka struggles to lift the giant weapon, joking that his sword is having a growth spurt. He thinks to himself that if Osoro is going to keep getting bigger, he'll have to start working out to keep up. Suddenly, a calm female voice echoes from the darkness, telling him there's no need for that. Hirotaka and Lise freeze, startled by the unexpected voice. The voice continues, a shadowy hand reaching out from the darkness, declaring that their journey ends here. Hirotaka senses a new enemy as Lise cries out a warning, just as a brilliant flash of magic lights up the dark corridor. The light is blinding. A woman with long dark hair and pointed ears emerges, wearing nothing but torn, leafy clothes. She points at Hirotaka and demands that the demon king of sloth surrender. Both Hirotaka and Lise are completely stunned, not only by the sudden attack, but by the woman's strange appearance. The mysterious woman repeats her demand, her eyes glowing with power. The three of them stand facing each other in the ancient tomb, the air thick with tension. Lise nervously whispers to Hirotaka, asking if this woman is another monster, but he isn't quite sure how to answer. The woman decides to introduce herself. She announces that her name is Rachel, and that she is an elf on a quest to defeat the Demon King. Her intense gaze falls upon the massive sword in Hirotaka's hands, recognizing it as a magic sword. She immediately jumps to a conclusion, pointing at him and shouting that possessing a magic sword makes him the Demon King. Panicking, Hirotaka holds up his adventurer's license, trying to prove that they are just harmless, newly registered adventurers. But Rachel isn't listening. She begins chanting a high-level fire spell, calling upon the great fire spirit to lend her its power. Lisa's face goes pale with fear. She recognizes the advanced magic chant and realizes this elf is an incredibly powerful magician. With her spell fully charged, Rachel's eyes narrow as she commands her magic to destroy the fools standing before her. Hirotaka stands frozen, bracing for the blast of fire that is about to be unleashed. But just as she is about to finish her powerful spell, she suddenly wobbles, and the fireball fizzles into nothing. To everyone's surprise, the mighty elf collapses, landing face first on the stone floor. She lies there, completely still. With her face still pressed to the ground, she weakly mumbles that she is so hungry she can't move, leaving Hirotaka and Lise utterly bewildered. The grand ancient tomb is filled with a moment of very awkward silence. A little while later, the three of them sit on the floor as Rachel gratefully eats the food they've shared with her, apologizing for attacking them. Hirotaka grumbles that he tried to tell her they weren't demon kings. While munching on bread, Rachel admits that while she didn't find the Demon King, finding a magic sword is still a great discovery. Curious, Hirotaka asks her about her quest. Her expression turns grim as she explains that the Demon Kings cause endless destruction, and someone has to be the one to stop them. Hirotaka realizes this is the second time today he's been caught up in the conflict with the Demon Kings. Soon, Rachel is surrounded by all of their provisions, eating everything in sight, and he shouts in disbelief. He holds up his now empty backpack, crying out that she even ate all the expensive snacks he had bought for himself. Lisa explains that eating is a key way for magicians to recover their mana, and Rachel's huge appetite means she must have an incredible amount of it. Lisa is amazed by her power, but Hirotaka still seems a bit doubtful. Rachel gives them a smug look, saying she knows they're impressed by her vast supply of mana. Lisa suddenly gasps, wondering if Rachel might be a blood relative of the legendary magician Kayan. Rachel proudly explains her very distant connection, and Hirotaka bluntly points out that this means they aren't related at all. To further prove her skill, she adds that she's also a former S-rank adventurer, and he wishes she had led with that information. He then asks a logical question: if she's so powerful, where are her companions? Her mood instantly sours as she explains that her party disbanded and she is a former adventurer, coldly stating that weak people would only die following her. She looks away and declares that for her dangerous journey, she doesn't need any companions. Hirotaka and Lise look at each other, sensing she is hiding a painful memory. She warns them to turn back and give up their treasure hunt. She explains that incredibly powerful monsters are lurking deeper inside the tomb. She reveals that one of these monsters stole all of her equipment, which is why she is forced to wear tattered rags. He finally understands, admitting that he had thought she was just some kind of pervert. She leaps to her feet, furious, yelling that it wasn't her choice. She had been humiliated. Lise and Hirotaka are both shocked by her strong reaction. She shudders as she recalls how the monster captured her and with its dry, undead hands stripped away her clothes. Before she can continue with the graphic details, Hirotaka lunges forward and covers her mouth, yelling that her story is not appropriate for children. She pulls away, pouting, and comments that he is quite harsh for someone with such a cute face. Lise tries to be positive, remarking that it's amazing she managed to escape such a terrifying situation. Hirotaka gives her a confident smile, telling her not to worry. He holds up Osoro, boasting that his sword is far more terrifying than any monster. Rachel completely ignores him, asking what special abilities the magic sword has. She explains that she's heard there are only 7 magic swords in the world, each with legendary power. He tells her what he knows so far. The sword seems to absorb the abilities of enemies it defeats. Her eyes widen as she understands. The sword grows stronger with every battle it wins. She slowly begins to reach for the sword. She stands up, her face now serious, and he senses a change in her mood. A painful memory flashes through her mind. A village. Destroyed, people crying out for help. She remembers her younger self screaming in terror, unable to do anything to save them. She had been known as a genius magician, and fighting should have been her duty. But she had frozen and stood alone in the ruins of her home. She blamed herself, believing everyone died because she was too afraid to fight. Her purpose became clear. She had to fight and defeat the Demon King. She believed that if she couldn't fulfill this duty, her life had no meaning. With this conviction burning in her heart, she knows she can't just ignore a powerful demon sword. She reaches for Osoro, her eyes filled with a terrifying resolve, and declares that she will destroy the wicked abomination. Hirotaka flinches, shocked by her sudden turn. She threatens him, telling him to hand over the sword unless he wants this adventure to be his very last. His eyes widen with genuine fear. He instinctively pulls Osoro back, clutching it tightly to his chest. He looks her straight in the eye and shouts, "No!" Her expression turns to ice. She begins chanting another spell, this time calling upon the great water spirit. Hirotaka panics, realizing she is about to attack again. As she finishes her spell, he grabs Lisa and yells for her to run. She unleashes her magic, sending a swirling torrent of water hurtling towards them. She names the spell Water Arrow. Hirotaka dives to the side, pulling Lisa with him just as the water blast slams into the wall. They tumble across the floor, narrowly avoiding the powerful attack. He looks back, his heart pounding. The spell has blown a massive hole in the ancient stone wall, creating a thick cloud of dust and steam. He yells to Lise, asking if she's okay to run, and she quickly nods yes. Together they scramble to their feet and run deeper into the dark corridors of the tomb. Rachel stands silently in the dissipating steam, watching them go. Her face is cold and unmoving, her determination unwavering. Further inside the tomb, they finally stop to catch their breath. They look around, realizing they have run quite far into the ruins. He notes that the smokescreen from her attack gave them a chance to escape, and decides they should find a place to hide. But as he turns, his eyes land on something completely bizarre. Sitting in the middle of the large empty chamber is a giant, glistening piece of roasted meat. Forgetting all about the danger, he starts drooling, finding the sudden appearance of a giant meal strangely romantic. Lise snaps him out of it, pointing out that fresh food in a monster-filled tomb has to be a trap. He comes to his senses and confidently agrees, saying that surely no one would be foolish enough to fall for such an obvious trick. Just then, Rachel appears, and without a second thought, leaps onto the giant piece of meat. He is speechless, unable to believe she has gotten ahead of them and is now happily feasting on the suspicious food. Suddenly, a bright flash of lightning erupts from the meat. Her eyes shoot open in surprise as she is zapped by the magical trap. She is thrown into the air as the entire piece of meat explodes in a shower of sparks. Hirotaka and Lise can only stare in shock, wondering what is happening now. When the smoke clears, the giant meal is gone. Rachel lands on her feet and turns to face them, her expression deadly serious as she tells them to get ready. With a sharp look in her eyes, she declares a temporary truce. Hirotaka is completely confused by her sudden change of heart. A massive, hulking shadow emerges from the darkness, and she identifies it as the very monster that stole her clothes. He stares, his eyes wide with shock and a little bit of fear. The monster steps into the light, revealing itself to be a wight, a terrifying, undead creature in rotting robes. Lise explains that a wight is a powerful magician brought back from the dead through forbidden necromancy. Rachel warns them to be extremely careful, as the wight can use powerful magic. She then turns her anger on the wight, furiously accusing it of using cowardly illusion magic to trick her twice. With a determined cry, she declares that she is taking her equipment back. All three of them brace themselves as the wight prepares a massive magical attack. A wave of powerful energy washes over them, forcing them to shield themselves. Lise worries that even Rachel might not stand a chance, but Hirotaka sees a small opening, realizing this might be their only chance. Another bolt of energy shoots from the white staff. The magic strikes Rachel directly, and she screams in pain as she is engulfed in a blinding flash of light. Hirotaka screams her name in terror, watching helplessly as the magic engulfs her. When the light fades, she is kneeling on the ground, seemingly unharmed but weak, and he can't believe she survived. The wight seems confused, looking down at its hands, wondering why its magic didn't work. She struggles to stay upright, muttering that the situation is bad as he rushes to her side. Annoyed with herself, she explains that the wight's robe has a special power that cancels out magic, and he yells at her for forgetting such an important detail. With its magic useless, the wight raises its staff, preparing to strike her down. Just as it swings, the wight's own body begins to crackle with electrical energy. The magic robe, having absorbed her attack, is now releasing the stored energy back at its wearer. Seeing an opening, Hirotaka leaps over Rachel and swings his massive sword with all his might. She watches in shock as he moves to protect her. He brings the sword down hard, gasping for breath from the terrifyingly close call. The wight is sliced in two, its bones and tattered robe falling to the ground, and he apologizes for accidentally cutting up her equipment. She stares at him, completely stunned, and asks him why he saved her. She reminds him that she had just attacked him and that it was her duty, and hers alone, to defeat this monster. She insists that he has nothing to do with her fight, but he simply turns back to her and says that her duty has nothing to do with it. He smiles kindly and reminds her that since they had agreed to a temporary truce, that makes them comrades, and he would always help a comrade. She is speechless, his simple act of kindness catching her completely off guard. Their victory is short-lived as the pieces of the wight begin to stir behind them. Rachel gasps in shock. Lise cries out in terror. The severed halves of the wight begin to crawl back together, its bones magically knitting themselves back into one piece. Lise can't believe it, stuttering that no healing magic should be powerful enough to mend a body that had been cut in half. The wight has completely resurrected itself, as if the attack had never happened. Aka shouts in frustration, saying it's basically cheating for a monster to be unable to die. A new idea sparks in his mind. Not dying, he thinks. Lise, terrified, tells him that they have no chance of winning and should run, but he shakes his head. A look of fierce determination crosses his face as he tells her, "We can win." He holds his sword at the ready, a plan forming in his mind. He remembers Osoro's strange new skill. It could both grant and remove the undead attribute, and he realizes he can make the wight mortal. The wight begins to gather another massive ball of magical energy. Rachel warns him that charging in now is reckless, believing an amateur like him would be destroyed before he could even get close. But Hirotaka stands firm, his resolve unshaken. He turns to Lise and Rachel and tells them to stay back where it is safe. Rachel watches him, her expression a mix of disbelief and confusion. She can't understand why he would risk his life for her, someone who had just tried to kill him. Lise explains that it's just the kind of person he is. He can't stand by and watch someone in trouble without helping. Osoro pulses with a faint glow, ready for battle. Lise quickly casts a spell on him, a magic buff to increase his defense, and he thanks her as a protective aura surrounds him. With his new protection, he charges forward. As Rachel watches him run headfirst into danger, her own painful past comes flooding back. She remembers her former companions, who had praised her for her growing strength. They had relied on her to protect them, but then they had abandoned her. They told her that her quest to fight the Demon King was too much for them, that they only wanted an easy life. They left her all alone, telling her that such a dangerous duty was a job for a genius like her. And so she had accepted it, believing it was her duty to fight alone. She had convinced herself that if everyone's duties were different, they couldn't be together. The White's magic is now fully charged, ready to be unleashed. Hirotaka flinches, seeing the immense power gathering before him. But just as the White is about to attack, Rachel takes a stand. He shouts at her, asking what she is doing, warning her that she'll run out of mana and collapse again. She simply smiles, reminding him of his own words. "We're comrades now." If that is true, she declares, then she has to help. A powerful burst of light erupts from the tomb. A voice seems to echo in her mind, encouraging her to blow away her past and her trauma, and to finally let her true power bloom. She unleashes a massive wave of anti-magic energy. The force of her spell is so great that it tears up the stone floor around her. The White's attack is completely swallowed by her magic and disappears. Lise watches in awe, amazed by her incredible power, but her eyes widen in alarm as she sees what happens next. Rachel's magic is so strong that it doesn't just stop the White's spell, it also disintegrates the magic nullifying robe. Lise can't believe that her power has overwhelmed the robe's special ability. Rachel's spell fades, and she stands exhausted, steam rising from her body. She has used up almost all of her mana in that one incredible burst. The White is now completely defenseless, its most powerful protections gone. She looks at Hirotaka, her expression weak but trusting, and tells him she is counting on him now. With a fierce battle cry, he leaps toward the stunned monster, his sword held high. He channels Osoro's power, shouting the name of its skill. Undead attribute removal! The world seems to slow down as he brings the sword down on the White. He swings with all his might, pouring every bit of his determination into the attack. The White begins to crumble, its skull starting to turn to dust. Its entire body dissolves into a cloud of black ash. The three of them stand in the now quiet chamber as the last remnants of the White fade away. He stares at the empty space, breathing heavily, and cautiously asks if they really did it this time. Then, the reality of their victory hits them, and they shout in celebration, relieved and overjoyed that the terrifying battle is finally over. He remembers that Rachel had been hurt and asks Lise if she can heal her. Lisa stands between them, and a gentle, healing light envelops Rachel. Rachel opens her eyes, her strength slowly returning. Now that the fight is over, she looks at him and says that before they end their truce, she has one question. She asks why he didn't let go of the magic sword, even after she had attacked him for it. He smiles and hugs the hilt of his sword, answering simply, "Because it's my companion." A small, gentle smile appears on her face, her heart touched by his answer. She makes a decision and tells him she will let him keep the magic sword. But in exchange, she looks him directly in the eyes and asks him to help her defeat the Demon King. Hirotaka and Lise are both completely shocked by her unexpected proposal. He starts to refuse, but she holds up a hand to stop him. She laughs, saying she knows he's the type of person who just wants to live an easy life without any trouble. She tells him she will wait for him to change his mind, but her confident smile quickly fades. She looks down, her voice now quiet and hesitant, and shyly asks if, until he decides, she can still be his companion. He smiles warmly and holds out his hand, telling her, "Of course," as she quietly thanks him. As he welcomes her, he playfully pats her on the head, and she warns him that if he ever uses the sword for evil, she will destroy it. He grins and agrees to her terms. She then adds that she doesn't think a lazy person like him would have any evil desires anyway. He remembers what she had called him during their fight and asks her why she called him the Demon King of Sloth. She explains that it wasn't an insult but a real title. She tells them that each of the 7 Demon Kings has a title based on one of their strongest characteristics, like wrath or greed. She then points at him with a teasing grin and says that, among all the titles, Sloth seems to fit him the best. Now that the battle is over, Ritaka cheerfully suggests they get back to their original mission, the treasure hunt. Rachel, who had missed that part of the conversation, looks confused by the mention of treasure. She shakes her head, telling them she already explored the entire tomb and there is no treasure anywhere. He holds up the worn map in disbelief, realizing it must be a fake. She sighs, admitting that the map was a scam she had bought from a shady adventurer in a tavern. She then looks at him, a question dawning on her as she asks why he has her map. His mind races as the horrifying truth hits him. The fake map was Rachel's, and it had fallen out of the panties his skill had collected. The realization is too much for him. He slowly pulls the frilly white underwear from his pouch. These belong to Rachel. She looks at him, completely puzzled, and asks what's wrong. He quickly hides the evidence, his face burning with embarrassment, and mumbles that it's nothing. When they return to the White Cat's mistletoe, Rona is devastated to hear there was no treasure. She cries that her plan to promote the guild is ruined while Hirataka looks on, completely exhausted. He tries to cheer her up, announcing that while they didn't find any treasure, something even better happened. Rachel walks through the door, now wearing a beautiful new set of clothes as he proudly introduces their new companion. She looks at her new outfit and comments that she quite likes it. He apologizes that they couldn't afford stronger equipment, but she tells him it's fine. She explains that the whole ordeal has taught her she needs to become strong enough to win without relying on her equipment. He finishes his introduction, telling Rona that Rachel is a former S-rank adventurer, and Rona's jaw drops. Overjoyed, Rona grabs Rachel's hands, welcoming her to the guild and calling her their savior. Rachel smiles gracefully, happy to have found a new home. Rona is completely starstruck by the beautiful and powerful elf. Her mind races again, realizing an S-rank adventurer is a priceless treasure for promoting the guild. With their party now complete, Hirataka officially welcomes Rachel to the Junketeers. He turns to Laze, asking if she thinks it's a good name, and she agrees that it has a nice, we're doing our best feel to it. Rachel gives a small, approving smirk. Lise looks on, feeling a sense of belonging she had never felt before. Hirataka lets out a huge sigh of relief, suddenly feeling very tired after all the excitement. Rona agrees and calls it a day, congratulating everyone on their hard work. As Lise is about to head to her room, he calls out to her. He holds out a small, neatly folded item. He explains that after getting things for Rachel and Osoro, he realized he hadn't gotten anything for her, and hands her a pair of white gloves. He shyly explains that since she's always holding her staff, he thought she might worry about her hands getting sweaty when she's nervous. He worries that it was a strange gift and offers to take them back. Her face lights up with pure joy as she exclaims that she wants them, admitting her hands get incredibly sweaty when she's nervous. After wishing her a good night, he goes up to his own room. A few moments later, Lise stands outside his door, her hand raised to knock. She clutches the new gloves to her chest, feeling that she has already received so much from him but has given nothing in return. She remembers all the times she had frozen up during their recent battles, unable to help. Despite trying to use her defensive magic many times, she only succeeded on her very last attempt. She recalls his kind words, telling her it was okay to want to be useful, but she knows that's not it. The truth is, she's simply terrified of disappointing people. A hand had reached out to her when she felt lost. It was him who had accepted her, weaknesses and all, telling her it was okay to fail. And it is because of him that she truly wants to become useful. With a new resolve, she runs to Rachel's room, bursting through the door to ask for help with her magic. She walks in on Rachel, who is fresh from a bath and completely naked. In his room, Hirataka hears the commotion and jokingly asks if they had come to give him a massage. He lets out a small sigh, hoping Rachel isn't causing any weird trouble for Lise. Lying in bed, he stares up at the ceiling. He thinks about how he had felt so alone in this new world, but now he has found trustworthy companions. He looks out his window at the starry night sky and smiles, thinking maybe he really is lucky after all. And so, The Junketeers' daily life begins. They spend their days completing guild quests like fighting off giant rats and taking time to rest and relax back at the guild. Rona is busy at her desk, happily managing the new flow of work. A few days later, Hirotaka wakes up with a big yawn and wishes everyone a good morning. He stops in his tracks, his eyes widening in shock. The once empty guild hall is packed with a huge crowd of adventurers. The wooden floor creaks and groans under the weight of so many people. He looks around, completely bewildered, as the girls wonder what is going on. Rona is frantically trying to keep up with all the new registration paperwork, but she declares that their plan was a huge success. She holds up a flyer she had made, advertising them as the beautiful men and women party that had defeated the boss of Cayenne's tomb. He groans, realizing her flyer has made them famous overnight. Rachel observes that when adventurers become famous, their guild's reputation grows, which brings in more quests. However, not everyone is happy, as two new recruits complain loudly about the false advertising. Hirotaka grumbles, offended that they don't consider him handsome. Just then, a group of serious-looking adventurers approaches him, asking if he's really part of the group that cleared Cain's tomb. He nervously confirms that he is. The adventurers suddenly erupt with excitement, calling him awesome and crowding around him. They bombard him with questions, wanting to know every detail of the battle. Overwhelmed by all the attention, he can barely get a word in. He shouts in surprise, not used to being the center of attention. He tries to explain that he isn't as amazing as they think. Rachel quietly explains to him that exceptional adventurers are often admired by others. The crowd of new adventurers looks at him with stars in their eyes, inspired by his great deed. She tells him that he is the one who has sparked this newfound hope and excitement in their hearts. Lise peeks out from behind a corner, hiding from the crowd. She whispers to herself, amazed and a little scared that their adventure has become such a big deal. One of the adventurers asks what his rank is, guessing he must be A rank or even S rank. He sheepishly admits that he is only in E rank. The entire crowd goes silent, staring at him in disbelief. The mood immediately shifts as they start whispering, finding it suspicious that a low-rank amateur could have accomplished such a feat. Just as the crowd is about to turn on him, Rona leaps in front of them, insisting there is a very deep reason for his low rank. The adventurers pause, their interest piqued. She begins to spin a heroic tale, declaring that an adventurer's true purpose isn't fame or money, but helping people. She then announces that, to meet their expectations, he has finally decided to take the adventurer promotion exam. The crowd erupts in a massive cheer, completely won over by her story. A quick recap shows Hirotaka, persuaded by Rona, reluctantly agreeing to take the exam. The day of the adventurer's exam finally arrives. The test is held at a large official guild called the One-Eyed Bear's Den. An examiner announces that who has passed the morning's written test should come to the reception desk. Two overconfident adventurers brag about how easy the test was, sure that they had passed. A moment later, those same two are shown slumped in defeat, having failed. Hirotaka, Lise, and Rachel walk past them, deciding it's best to just leave them be. Hirotaka holds his breath, waiting for his own results. The three of them burst into a joyous celebration. They have all passed the written test. As Hirotaka and Lise cheer and throw confetti, Rachel looks on with a smug expression, commenting on how easy the test had been. As they celebrate, a frustrating memory flashes through Hirotaka's mind, imagining a ridiculous game show where he angrily blames Rachel for their studying woes. He remembers the struggle of teaching her the most basic math, with Lise's help, as Rachel daydreams about completely different answers. Lise tries to brighten the mood, nervously suggesting that all their time spent studying together was still fun, wasn't it? But Rachel just smiles with smug confidence, telling Hirotaka that he should reflect on his own efforts instead. Back in the present, he puts the memory aside, sighing with immense relief that somehow all of them managed to pass the written exam. A warm smile crosses his face as he thinks about everyone at the guild, feeling a deep sense of responsibility not to let them down. With their spirits high and the exam behind them, the team steels themselves for the next challenge that awaits after lunch: the practical test. At that very moment, Rona and the other guild members are laughing and celebrating, absolutely certain that Hirotaka's party is already dominating the competition. The scene shifts to a quiet afternoon sky, signaling their journey to the test site. They arrive at the edge of the Nomorous Forest, a sprawling woodland that now serves as the venue for their practical exam. An instructor stands before the group of hopefuls, explaining that their primary mission is to carry vital supplies to a base hidden deep within the woods. But he reveals there's a catch. To pass, they must also defeat 3 monsters along the way and gather 2 different types of medicinal herbs. Hirotaka and Lise exchange a look of sudden recognition. This forest is all too familiar. A flood of memories rushes back for both of them. For Lise, it's where Hirotaka saved her, and for Hirotaka, it's where Osoro first revealed its power. He can't help but smile at the thought, feeling a strange sense of nostalgia for a danger they survived not so long ago. Rachel turns to Lise, confirming that this is indeed the very place where she was once attacked by monsters. With a surprising moment of sincerity, Rachel praises Hirotaka and his sword for saving a promising young magician that day, causing a flustered Lise to deny that she's anything special. Rachel continues, genuinely impressed that even with all the quests and studying, Lise never once neglected her own magical training. She gently pats Lise on the head, admitting that, as a fellow magician, she finds that dedication truly admirable. Lise's eyes well up with tears, completely overwhelmed to receive such heartfelt praise from the powerful elf she looks up to. But Rachel ruins the touching moment with a crude joke, earning a swift chop to the head from an exasperated Hirotaka. Without warning, the other teams bolt. They charge into the forest. Hirotaka stares, shocked by their eagerness. One of the adventurers stops, confused, and asks his friend why he isn't joining the famous party from the White Cat's Mistletoe. The scarred man, Edgar, just grins and reveals that he and his friends are also proud members of their guild. Hirotaka looks around and realizes with a jolt of pride that every adventurer from their guild has come to take the test together. It seems monster activity has been increasing recently, forcing the kingdom to recruit more adventurers as a countermeasure. Rachel grimly notes that this surge in monster activity is likely the very reason Lise was attacked here in the first place. Hirotaka falls silent, his expression turning serious as he thinks about this troubling new information. He recalls the terrifying creatures they've faced, from vicious wolves to the horrifying wight that guarded the tomb. He finds himself wondering why it is that monsters seem to only direct their aggression toward humans. But no one has an answer, for in this world, that is simply an unquestioned and dangerous fact of life. Suddenly, the ground begins to tremble. A violent tremor throws them off balance. Everyone braces themselves. Is this an earthquake? From deep within the woods, adventurers are now sprinting back towards them, screaming in pure terror. Absolute chaos erupts as the entire group begins to panic, desperately trying to understand what's happening. An adventurer gasps, sensing an overwhelming pressure unlike anything he's ever felt before, believing a monstrously strong creature has just appeared. Lise and Hirotaka feel it too, an oppressive wave of magical energy that suffocates the air around them. But Rachel's eyes go wide. She recognizes this power, and she is horrified. Hirotaka instinctively moves to help, but Rachel screams at him, telling him to stop right where he is. A figure emerges from the trees. Only a single, curved black horn is visible. Then, a small demonic wing and a heart-tipped tail come into view. She steps into the clearing, her long hair hiding her face as she calmly says a single word: "No." As she walks, 2 massive beasts simply collapse at her sides, defeated without a fight. Hirotaka and Lise stare in absolute disbelief at the small demonic child who has single-handedly taken down every adventurer in her path. Rachel shouts that they are wrong. This is no child. Her eyes burn with an intense fire of recognition. She knows exactly who this is. Hirotaka looks back at her, confused and alarmed by her sudden, furious reaction. Rachel's voice shakes with rage as she identifies the impossible being standing before them, a demon king. She wastes no time. She immediately launches an attack. The demon king, Gisela, merely sighs, complaining that having to check every single person for what she seeks is a total drag. Her cold, slitted eyes scan the chaos with utter boredom. Rachel watches in utter shock. Her attack was useless. The entire party is frozen in place, their minds unable to process the impossible power before them. Then, Gisela's eyes lock onto something. They fixate on Osoro. In less than a blink, she is there, standing right in front of Hirotaka. Her voice is ice. She has only one demand: "Give it back!" Her cat-like eyes glow with menace as she repeats her command. She lunges for the sword. Rachel moves to intercept, but Gisela doesn't even look at her, simply flicking a finger in her direction. An invisible force erupts, blasting Rachel away as Gisela warns her not to interfere. The powerful elf is sent tumbling across the clearing, completely helpless against the casual display of power. Rachel crashes to the ground. She is in total disbelief. Her strongest anti-magic attack was deflected by a single finger. She stares, horrified by the gap in their strength. Lisa's own defensive spell dissipates into nothing before it can even form. She trembles, realizing she was so paralyzed by fear that she couldn't even see the exchange happen. Gisela now holds Hirotaka by his shirt, dismissing him as a pathetic human not even worth the effort of killing. She releases him and grabs Osoro's hilt, demanding that he return it at once. Hirotaka shouts at her to stop, his hands desperately gripping the sword's sheath. Gisela looks at him with genuine confusion, calling him a thief who has no right to make demands. She reveals her true identity with chilling authority, declaring herself Gisela, the demon king of sloth, and the one true contractor of the magic sword, Osoro. The name echoes in Hirotaka's mind. The demon king of sloth. It all clicks into place. This is Osoro's original master. For a tense moment, they are locked in a struggle, both gripping the sword. But her strength is absolute. She lifts him into the air with one hand. His friends can only scream his name as he is pulled helplessly toward the sky. Hirotaka struggles against her impossible strength, shocked that such a small body can hold so much power. Gisela looks at him with a mix of anger and confusion, demanding to know if he was the one who abandoned Osoro. He realizes she must have sensed his junk collection skill, which must have found the sword after she lost it. A painful thought crosses his mind. Maybe his partner truly belongs with its original owner. Gisela holds out her hand, telling Osoro that it is finally time to go home. With a heavy heart, Hirotaka lets go of the sheath, but the sword doesn't move. It is stuck. Gisela is completely shocked. Hirotaka stares as Osoro's pommel actively clings to the scabbard, refusing to be drawn. The sword is rejecting its former master. It is choosing him. He looks down at his partner, completely stunned by this undeniable act of loyalty. Gisela's expression darkens. A feeling of sickness washes over her. Hirotaka looks up, confused by her sudden, drastic change in mood. Humiliation turns to pure rage. She screams that she will kill every last one of them. An explosive wave of dark energy erupts from her body. Her eyes burn with a terrifying fury as she glares down at him. In response to her killing intent, Osoro begins to writhe in Hirotaka's hand. Dark, living tendrils wrap around the hilt as it begins to transform. A menacing energy fills the air as the sword takes on a new shape. Gisela's eyes widen as she watches the impossible transformation. More eyes sprout from the hilt, all of them glaring with loyalty at Hirotaka. The sword erupts into its true, monstrous form, ready to defend its new master. Gisela can only stare, her face a mask of pure shock and rage. Hirotaka is amazed by the incredible weapon Osoro has become for him. Gisela's face twists with fury as she screams an insult at him. A terrifying shadow forms behind her, promising that the human will not have an easy death. Holding this living weapon, Hirotaka asks his partner if it is truly okay with this choice. Fire ignites in his eyes. He makes his decision. He declares that he will never hand Osoro over. The battle line is drawn, with the furious Demon King facing the boy who now wields her former sword. Hirotaka crouches, pointing the demonic blade forward and bravely echoing her earlier threat. Gisela glares back, her eyes cold and full of malice as she promises him a painful end. Despite the sweat on his brow, his resolve is absolute. He will never give up his partner. She moves faster than sight, a blur of motion. Her claws slash through the air. Hirotaka grits his teeth, bracing for the impact. Her attack is about to land, impossibly fast. He just barely manages to raise Osoro, blocking her hand with the blade. A strange ripple of energy spreads out, as if her power is simply vanishing into thin air. He holds his ground, the sword steady, completely neutralizing her attack. They both stare at each other. Both are completely surprised. He holds his ground, the sword steady, completely neutralizing her attack. Her immense power crackles and fades the moment it makes contact with the blade. Hirotaka strains against the sheer physical force of the blow, but he withstands it. Gisela looks down, her expression shifting from anger to utter confusion. She realizes with a jolt that her power, which could obliterate the entire forest, is completely dissipating upon contact with the sword. She snarls, demanding to know what kind of trick he's using. He reveals the sword's hidden power, a skill called mana break, that completely destroys the magic of anyone it touches. With a surge of newfound confidence, Hirotaka boldly tells the Demon King that her attacks are useless against him. He finally remembers that this was the skill Osoro absorbed from the White, a power he had forgotten until his partner activated it to save his life. But he knows this advantage won't last forever, as Gisella's physical attacks are still incredibly heavy and her mana seems limitless. She falls silent, her brow furrowed as she tries to comprehend this unexpected development. She scoffs in annoyance, unable to believe a mere thief is acting so mighty with a skill she doesn't even recognize. The tense battle suddenly devolves into a childish argument as she accuses him of theft while he insists his skill simply collected a discarded item. The implication hits him like a lightning bolt, and he points at her, shouting that this means she must have thrown Osoro away. Her tough demeanor shatters instantly as she panics, furiously denying that she would ever discard her precious sword. She fumbles for an excuse, admitting that she might have just forgotten where she put it, for a few decades. She continues rambling, trying to save face by insisting she didn't only remember it because the other Demon Kings got angry at her. Ritaka yells back, completely exasperated, declaring that forgetting something for that long is exactly the same as throwing it away. Flustered and embarrassed, Gisela resorts to shouting insults, her threats sounding more like a childish tantrum. The two now stand in the clearing, screaming "stupid" at each other like squabbling children. Rachel and Lise can only watch from a distance, completely dumbfounded by the bizarre scene. While Lise questions if this is really a Demon King, Rachel is deeply impressed, believing only Hirotaka could stand on equal footing with such a being. Gisela tries to defend herself, admitting she may have neglected Osoro, but they still had many good times together. A ridiculous memory flashes through her mind of using Osoro as a noodle lid and a very convenient back-scratcher. An awkward silence falls over the clearing as the argument dies down. Her patience finally snaps. She clenches her fist, her expression darkening as she declares that she's had enough. Hirotaka immediately raises his sword, preparing for her next move. But then he hears shouting from the woods, and he turns to see reinforcements arriving. An army of town soldiers, led by Edgar, charges into the clearing with their swords drawn. Rachel and Lise look on with dread, knowing these soldiers are charging toward their doom. Edgar rallies his men, warning them not to be fooled by Gisela's appearance, for she is the monster that took down the other adventurers. The soldiers bravely surround the Demon King, ready to fight together to defend their town. Rachel screams at them to stay back, desperately trying to warn them that a Demon King is an opponent they cannot possibly defeat. The terrifying words ripple through the soldiers' ranks, and murmurs of fear begin to spread. Annoyed by the interruption, Gisela bites her thumb hard enough to draw blood. She begins a dark incantation, offering her own life force to awaken her demonic servants. Swirls of pure darkness erupt around her, forming into massive, shadowy beasts with glowing teeth. Hirotaka can only look on in absolute horror. A swarm of winged, vampiric creatures screeches as they pour out of the darkness. Gisela smiles with pure malice as she gives her new army a single brutal command: slaughter every last human. The demonic horde descends upon the terrified soldiers. They cry out in fear, completely unprepared for such a nightmarish foe. Hirotaka watches helplessly, his face pale with desperation. He screams at the top of his lungs for it to stop, but it's too late. The vampires crash into the soldiers, and the forest fills with the sounds of a one-sided battle. While he's distracted, Gisela sneers, asking if he really has time to look away. She reminds him he's facing a Demon King as she sends a blade of dark energy hurtling towards him. He turns back, but he's too slow to react. Her attack closes in as she warns him that he'll regret not returning her sword. But just before it hits, her eye catches a strange movement on the ground. A tiny, fuzzy black creature with bright eyes pops out of a hole directly in her path. Gisela freezes, her powerful attack stopping midair as she stares in utter confusion. At that very moment, Rachel begins chanting a powerful spell, calling on the spirits of the dead. A surge of magical energy erupts as she casts necromancy, and 3 hulking undead warriors claw their way from the earth. She glares at Gisela, shouting that she won't let the Demon King do as she pleases. Her undead soldiers charge, causing the living soldiers to panic until Rachel yells that they're on their side. At the same time, Lisa finds her courage and begins her own prayer to the Holy Mother Chakra. With a powerful cry, she unleashes a massive protective spell, covering the soldiers in a dome of holy light that shields them from the vampires. She clenches her small fists, a new sense of purpose filling her heart. Rachel watches with fierce pride, vowing that this time, unlike in her past, she will not stand by helplessly. Lise finds her own resolve, her eyes shining with the determination to protect Hirotaka and everyone else. The two girls stand back to back, holding off the horde as they tell Hirotaka to focus on the real enemy. He looks back at them, his heart swelling with pride at how much his companions have grown. One of Rachel's undead warriors lunges at Gisela, wrapping its arms around her and holding her tight. Gisela looks genuinely surprised, noting that necromancy is a forbidden art impossible for a normal magician to wield. Rachel simply smirks, proudly stating that she is, after all, a genius. But she knows that even with her power, she's no match for a true demon king alone. She looks to Hirotaka, her expression filled with a newfound trust. She calls out his name, telling him that together they can win this fight. Stunned by her absolute faith in him, he realizes that now is the time to fight as a true team. His expression hardens into one of pure, unshakable resolve. He thinks back on his simple dream of a carefree life, a dream that seems so distant now. But his path is clear. If anyone dares to harm his companions, he will show no mercy. With a powerful cry, he points Osoro at the captured Demon King and declares that he is going to take her down. Gisela looks up at him, her expression one of genuine surprise. That surprise quickly melts into amusement as she begins to laugh at his foolish bravery. A cruel, confident smile spreads across her face. "Interesting," she says, her voice dangerously calm. She unleashes a shockwave of pure power, completely obliterating the undead creature holding her. Rachel immediately commands her remaining warriors to press the attack and support Hirotaka. The army of the dead charges forward once more. Gisela scoffs dismissively, stating that no number of undead are a match for her. She lashes out with her tail, and a whip of dark energy slices through her undead attackers. The remaining warriors continue their relentless charge, undeterred. She clicks her tongue, annoyed by their persistence, comparing them to a swarm of insects. She narrows her eyes, focusing her power for another devastating attack. But her undead opponents suddenly freeze, looking up in shock and confusion. Gisela looks around, suddenly realizing that Hirotaka is no longer in front of her. "He's gone," she says, her eyes wide with surprise. He's there in an instant, right beside her. He used the chaos as his perfect cover. The Demon King's cat-like eye widens in shock as she finally understands his clever plan. She realizes he blended in with the charging undead warriors, moving through the crowd to sneak into her blind spot while she was focused on the horde. With a fierce and determined grin, Hirotaka shouts that he's got her now. He swings Osoro with every last bit of his strength, but the attack stops dead, blocked by Gisela's long blonde hair, which has wrapped around the blade like a living whip. Blood drips from where the blade managed to sever a few of the impossible strands. Hirotaka's confident expression completely shatters, replaced by one of pure disbelief. Gisela looks at him with a smug, condescending smile, calling him naive. Using her hair, she flings both him and the sword backward across the clearing. She watches him fly through the air with an amused expression, as if he's nothing more than a toy. He crashes hard onto the ground, the brutal impact forcing the air from his lungs. He grits his teeth against the searing pain, his face contorted in agony. But he refuses to give up, digging his boot into the dirt to push himself back to his feet. With a defiant roar, he lunges forward one more time, driving Osoro toward her with all his might. Gisela looks utterly shocked, unable to believe he can still move, let alone attack. Hirotaka screams, channeling all his remaining energy into this one final, desperate thrust. In a stunning exchange, the tip of Osoro's blade pierces Gisela's side, just as her bladed tail stabs deep into Hirotaka's shoulder. It is a decisive strike. The sword is embedded in her chest. Gisela looks down at the blade, her eyes wide with genuine disbelief. Hirotaka strains, pushing the sword deeper, his face a mask of intense pain and effort. She grabs the blade, her expression shifting to one of strange admiration as she admits he is quite something to have actually landed a blow on her. The realization hits him with a jolt. He actually hurt her. Her expression softens slightly as she looks at the boy who did the impossible. A small, gentle smile appears on her face as her body begins to dissolve into particles of light. She chuckles, calling him an interesting fellow. Her body disappears in a swirl of energy, but her voice echoes, promising she will remember his name. The soldiers and adventurers watch in stunned silence as the Demon King turns to dust. A wave of relief and joy washes over them, and mighty cheers erupt as they celebrate their victory. But the hero of the battle stumbles, clutching the bleeding wound in his side. He looks down at his hand, now completely covered in his own blood. Blood trickles from his mouth. The wound is far more serious than it looked. Lise and Rachel rush to his side, their faces etched with panic and worry. Despite the intense pain, he manages a weak, reassuring smile, telling them he's just glad his strength finally gives out. He struggles to ask if Osoro is okay before his head slumps forward. The world fades as he loses consciousness. His friends can only scream his name as he collapses to the ground. The battle is over, but their leader now lies motionless on the forest floor. Rumors of the Demon King's appearance and subsequent defeat fly through the town, but the most incredible rumor of all is that a small group of adventurers was responsible. 3 days later, Lise is overjoyed, her face streaming with happy tears as she shouts for everyone to look. Hirotaka is standing again, though he's annoyed by all the fuss, wondering if she thinks he's a baby taking his first steps. He gently asks Lise to stop crying, but she is completely overcome with emotion. Sobbing, she explains how terrified she was, telling him he was bleeding so much that even her most powerful healing spells couldn't wake him. She confesses how scared she was at the thought of losing him, making him realize just how much his friends truly care. He waves his hands awkwardly, at a loss for how to comfort her. Rona appears, jokingly telling him to say something more clever than baby talk. Rachel just watches the scene with a thoughtful look, wondering if this is some kind of strange role play. The other guild members greet him warmly, relieved that their friend is finally awake after 3 long days. Hirotaka apologizes for worrying Rona, who quickly denies it, claiming she was only thinking about the guild's reputation. Rachel steps forward, her expression serious and sincere as she expresses her own gratitude. She tells him it's a miracle they managed to repel a demon king without a single casualty. She looks him straight in the eye and tells him with genuine admiration that he is really something special. But he looks down, burdened by guilt, insisting it's his fault for refusing to give up Osoro. Edgar immediately cuts him off, taking the blame for calling the soldiers, who were no match for such an enemy. As the others begin to apologize, Rachel steps in, reminding them that no one knew what they were up against, and that they all fought bravely. Lise still looks worried, starting to argue, but then stops. The fear from that day still lingers in her eyes. She clenches her fist and tells Hirotaka that she's glad he didn't give up the magic sword. He is completely surprised by her declaration. She explains that while she was once terrified of Osoro, seeing it as a symbol of demon kings, she now believes with all her heart that the sword is his true partner. With a bright, happy smile, she says she is glad he didn't give up something so important to him. Rachel nods her head, wholeheartedly agreeing with Lisa's sentiment. She gives Hirotaka a warm, knowing smile and tells him that if he was the type to abandon his companions, she never would have followed him. He looks at his 2 friends, completely stunned by their unwavering loyalty. He is moved beyond words, managing only a simple, heartfelt, "Thank you." The other guild members look on, a bit confused by the emotional moment. One of them speaks up, asking about the magic sword, and Hirotaka realizes they don't know Osoro's true identity. After a quick and hushed explanation, the entire guild hall erupts in a collective shout of disbelief. Now in on the secret, the guild members are in absolute awe, begging him to keep the world-class weapon a secret. Rona clears her throat, announcing that she has very important news for Hirotaka. She beams with pride, revealing that because of his incredible achievements in the recent battle, she pulls a party popper, unfurling a banner that declares the Junketeers are being promoted directly to C rank. Taka can barely believe it, as Rona explains that skipping ranks like this is completely unprecedented. She hums happily, overjoyed that the rumors of their victory have caused a flood of new adventurers wanting to join their guild. While Hirotaka is still processing the fact they got promoted without even finishing the exam, Edgar laughs that they should have skipped even more ranks. A flashback shows one of the adventurers giving a wildly exaggerated eyewitness account of the battle. He claims Hirotaka elegantly toyed with the Demon King, causing Hirotaka to sigh at the made-up story. Suddenly, a cloaked figure leans in and whispers that he was actually defeated by her hair. Hirotaka jumps back in terror as the figure pulls back its hood. It's Gisela. She's alive, and she winks at him. A tiny bat familiar lands on his shoulder, whispering a threat to keep quiet. Gisela smiles menacingly, warning him that if he causes a commotion, she might get lazy and kill everyone for real. He is completely terrified, his mind racing to understand why she is here. Edgar notices his strange behavior, but Hirotaka frantically denies that anything is wrong. Gisela turns to him and calmly tells him to follow her. Her expression is serious now. She wants to talk. Sometime later, they are walking through the streets of the town. Gisela is happily munching on some street food, her face sparkling with delight. A bewildered Hirotaka follows, wondering why he's treating a demon king to a meal, as his friends trail behind. After she finishes her snack, Hirotaka finally stops her. He looks at her with a serious expression and asks the question that's been burning in his mind. "You didn't die?" She scoffs at the ridiculous idea, claiming an attack like his could never kill her, especially since she wasn't even trying. The entire party is stunned into silence, horrified by the true gap in their power. Hirotaka sighs, a feeling of dread washing over him as he admits he had a feeling that was the case. Gisela smirks, intrigued by his reaction. He instinctively places a hand on Osoro, his body tensing for another fight as he asks if she's come to take the sword back. The friendly atmosphere vanishes, replaced by a tense silence as they stare each other down. But Gisela just sighs dramatically, complaining that humans are so quick to pick fights. She tells him that's not it at all. In fact, she has thought of something much better. With a cheerful smile, she makes a shocking proposal. "Hirotaka, you become a demon king." He is so stunned he can only manage a confused, "Huh?" Behind him, Rachel and Lisa are frozen in absolute horror. He demands to know what she's talking about, but she just tells him to listen. She lazily floats in the air, complaining that being a demon king is a pain because people are always challenging her, and the other demon kings get angry if she loses her sword. Her gaze becomes sharp and focused as she looks at him. She pokes him in the chest, declaring that he is surprisingly well suited for the job. She asks if he's ever felt unusually strong, forcing him to recall all the times he's shown surprising power. She explains with a sly smile that Osoro has taken a liking to him and has been secretly enhancing his body. After all, she points out, how else could a mere human have survived her attack? He stands silently, processing this stunning revelation. He glances down at the demon sword at his hip. He finally understands that Osoro has been supporting him all this time. Gisela gets right in his face, offering him the position again. But he immediately shouts, "No!" Lise furiously rejects the offer on his behalf, shouting, "Absolutely not!" She recalls the dark legends she's studied about how contracting with a magic sword twists a person's personality. She trembles with fear, terrified of what would happen to the kind Hirotaka she knows. Gisela just waves off her concerns, saying it only makes you a little more true to your own desires. She continues her sales pitch, promising immense power and the freedom to live as he wishes. The words, "a life of leisure," echo in his mind. He mutters the word freedom, as if in a trance, but he snaps out of it, giving her a light chop on the head and reminding her that she just said being a demon king is a pain. He goes on a frustrated rant, declaring that he'll continue adventuring with Osoro but will never become a demon king. But Gisela stubbornly refuses to leave until he agrees, much to the confusion of his friends. Lisa just looks on, her heart filled with a silent, worried concern. And so the days begin to pass in a strange new stalemate. One day, Rona is at the guild entrance, her jaw dropping in shock. Gisela stands there, cheerfully waving and announcing her arrival like a new employee. A moment later, Hirotaka watches as she is promptly kicked out of the guild. This becomes their strange new routine, with Hirotaka constantly finding Gisela causing trouble. He finds her pestering a terrified Rona. Another time, he has to physically drag her away as she throws a tantrum. Even Rachel gets involved, whacking the lazy demon king with a baguette to get her to move. Hirotaka looks at Osoro, his expression firm. He has made a decision. The days continue to pass under this new, chaotic normal. Several days later, he returns to the guild, letting out a tired but satisfied sigh. Lise and Rachel greet him at the door, welcoming him back. Lise asks if he has gotten used to his new training at the sword dojo. He suddenly strikes a dramatic pose, excitedly announcing his new special move, much to Rachel's unimpressed stare. She reminds him that he's already gained plenty of practical experience from their quests. His expression turns serious as he explains he started training because he finally realized he wasn't as strong as he thought. He glances down at his sword, admitting he never knew that his partner, Osoro, was secretly supporting him. With newfound humility, he admits that without that help, he was just a weak human. He confesses that during the battle, he was terrified because his weakness was putting everyone in danger. He clenches his fist, his eyes burning with a new fire as he declares his need to get stronger. Lise looks at him, her heart touched by his sincere declaration. But a familiar voice pipes up, suggesting the quickest way to get stronger is by becoming a demon king. Hirotaka groans, telling Gisela to give it up already. She appears in the doorway with a flourish, now dressed in a surprisingly cute maid outfit. The entire party stares, their minds completely blown by this latest absurdity. He demands to know what she's wearing, and she just puffs out her chest proudly. A nervous Rona peeks out from behind the door, revealing her plan. She has hired Gisela as a Demon King receptionist to solve their staff shortage and create a massive promotional buzz. He asks Gisela what she's scheming now, but she's too busy admiring how good she looks. She tells him she can be motivated if it leads to a lazy future for herself, and she's brought him the perfect quest. With another cheerful "ta-da!" she holds up a formal document, a joint subjugation request. Hirotaka looks at the paper, confused. A joint subjugation request? Rona explains it's a special request sent to multiple guilds when a monster appears that's too powerful for a single party. With a mischievous grin, Gisela leans in with Rona to announce the target. It's a legendary monster that strikes fear into the hearts of all who hear its name. A dragon. The entire party shouts in unison, "A D-dragon!" They are completely stunned by the impossible news. They discuss just how rare this is, with Lisa explaining dragons are creatures of fairy tales, and Rachel confirming she's never even heard of a dragon hunt. Gisela just smirks, saying that strong dragons make for perfect training opponents. Rona adds that many veteran adventurers will be participating, and the reward is extremely generous. Taka strokes his chin, considering the offer, while Rachel wonders if dragon meat tastes good, much to Lisa's horror. He worries aloud if they'll need to call on the army for backup again. But Lise shakes her head, telling him she doesn't think so. She explains that moving the army without a direct order could provoke political trouble between the lords. Furthermore, she adds, an army's duty is to protect its own town, so they can't be deployed unless there's a direct threat. Hirotaka is amazed by her detailed knowledge of politics, causing a flustered Lise to brush it off. She claims she just happened to hear it somewhere, but her nervous expression says otherwise. A calm, new voice cuts in, questioning her excuse. The mysterious speaker says coolly that of course she would know, since it's about her own home. A handsome, elegantly dressed man with strange markings on his cheek stands at the guild entrance. The team turns around, surprised by the sudden intrusion. "Who?" Hirotaka asks. Lise stares at the man, her face pale with shock as she whispers a single word. "Teacher." Hirotaka is completely lost. "What?" The man's gaze is fixed solely on Lisa as he says he has finally found her. The two of them stare at each other across the room, a heavy silence falling between them. Hirotaka tries to connect the pieces. "Teacher, and your own home?" The man says her full name, revealing her identity to everyone. Lise Montaigne. He explains that she is the daughter of the noble family that rules this town, and is destined to become the next court magician. Hirotaka's jaw drops. "A daughter of nobility?" He looks from the man to Lise, finally understanding that the shy cleric in his party is a high-born lady. He asks her why she never told them, but she looks down, too ashamed to answer. The man, Ashen Glow, looks down on them with disdain, remarking that he can't believe she was with people who didn't even know this was Montaigne territory. Rachel bristles at his condescending tone, telling Hirotaka that the man is making fun of them. Hiding behind a post, Rona whispers that the man is the legendary Grey Sage, Ashen Glow, the Montaigne family's court magician. Rona begins to panic, realizing the immense political power now standing in her humble guild, and she worries they could all be crushed. Ashen Glow takes a determined step forward. He looks at Lise, his expression grim and unyielding as he commands her to come back. He tells her she is returning to the Montaigne estate. He reaches out his gloved hand to take her, but before he can touch her, another hand shoots out and grabs his wrist. Hirotaka steps between them, shielding Lisa with his own body. He tells him to wait, his voice firm and protective, saying there's no need to take her by force. Ashen Glow looks at the boy who dared to interfere, his eyes cold and dangerous as he's who he is. He dismisses him as an outsider who should stay out of family matters, but Hirotaka stands his ground, declaring that they are not outsiders. Hirotaka plants his feet, becoming a shield between Lise and the stern magician. He declares that they are Lise's companions, and they will not stand by silently while she is taken from them. But the tension shatters when Rachel speaks. She has something vital to announce. She points at Ashen Glow, her voice filled with concern as she asks if he is eating properly. Ashen Glow looks utterly exhausted. Her absurd question is the last thing he wants to hear. His visible eye flashes, pure magic flares to life. Hirotaka's eyes fly wide. He feels the immense, sudden power. Instantly, chains of light erupt from the floor. They bind Hirotaka, holding him fast. He gasps, caught completely off guard. He can't move his hand. His entire body is completely paralyzed. Rachel struggles against her own bonds. Even her incredible power is useless here. Ashen Glow calmly warns them. He tells them not to fight the magic, or they will only hurt themselves. Lise watches in absolute horror. She cries out for her captured friends, her voice choked with fear. In a blur, he is suddenly behind Lise. Hirotaka shouts in alarm. Ashen Glow takes her arm, his cold gaze fixed on her friends as he questions if they truly understand why a noble lady would ever be found in a place like this. Panic washes over Lisa's face. Her most guarded secret is about to be revealed. Her voice trembles as she begs her teacher to stop. He ignores her plea, revealing the simple truth. Lise ran away. He continues, his voice heavy with disappointment, as he explains that she abandoned the sacred duty she was born to fulfill. A memory flashes in her mind, showing a small girl standing before the imposing gates of her family estate, burdened with the mission to become the next court magician. She remembers a childhood filled with endless, diligent study, where her serious nature ensured she progressed smoothly until the day she turned 10 years old. The memory darkens, filled with the disembodied eyes and whispering voices of nobles, all of them watching her, their expectations a crushing, suffocating weight. In that moment, young Lise is frozen, her face a mask of pure terror. The pressure was too much, and her immense magic erupted out of control, leaving the great hall of her home in absolute ruins. Back in the present, Ashen Glow explains that after that day, she developed a crippling stage fright, causing her to fail at magic again and again. He looks down at her, his tone sharp with hurt, as he asks if she ever once considered the shame she brought upon him, or upon her own father. Lise can't meet his gaze as she whispers an apology, but he presses on, coldly asking if she must disappoint them even more to be satisfied. She turns to Hirotaka, her shoulders slumped in defeat, confessing that she was never trying to be useful, but was only a coward running from her duty. With tears in her eyes, she finally admits that she has been deceiving them the entire time. Hirotaka stands silently with his back to her, and then lets out a long, quiet sigh. Lisa's voice cracks as she admits how frustrating it is to be so weak. She tells him that since meeting them, she has finally learned about the pain of struggle, but also the joy of being helped by true companions. Hirotaka finally turns, and to her surprise, a soft, understanding smile is on his face as he tells her that running away must have been incredibly painful too. He tells her she did well. Those 3 words strike her to the core. A single tear escapes her eye, carrying with it all the shame she had held inside for so long. Ashen Glow watches this tender moment, his stern expression unreadable. His attention shifts. The time for talk is over. He takes a single step, and the air hums with power as a teleportation spell begins to form. A brilliant magic circle illuminates the floor beneath him and Lise, signaling their imminent departure. Rachel shouts that he's using spatial transfer. Magic. He's taking Lise away. She struggles furiously against her bonds, but the powerful magic holds her fast. The light of the teleportation circle intensifies. The magic feels strange, different from anything they have ever felt. Hirotaka pours all of his strength into breaking free. Ashen Glow glances back, his expression dismissive. He tells them their efforts are pointless. He scoffs, adding that the restraints cannot be broken, especially not by lowly adventurers from such a pathetic guild. The insult strikes a nerve. Hirotaka's teeth grind together in anger. A powerful energy surges through him. He roars, channeling all of his might against the magical chains. A sharp crack echoes through the room. A fracture appears in the glowing magic. Ashen Glow's eye shoots open in disbelief. Impossible. Hirotaka speaks, his voice steady as he acknowledges that he understands Lise has a duty she must return to. But his mind flashes back to the lonely girl who was the very first person to ask to be his companion when he had nothing left. Lise stares at his back, her heart filled with hope. The magical chains continue to crack and splinter under the immense pressure. He spins around, his face a mask of raw emotion, roaring that being with them is her duty too. The magical chains shatter. They explode into pieces of light. Before the light even fades, Hirotaka leaps across the room and pulls Lisa into a protective hug, snatching her away from her teacher. Ashen Glow whispers in pure astonishment. His perfect binding magic was broken. He cannot comprehend how someone could shatter the spell with brute force and not be seriously injured in the process. Hirotaka gives Lise a reassuring, if slightly sweaty, smile, explaining that his body is just a little special. At his hip, the demon sword Osoro glints, revealing the secret source of his mysterious and growing power. He gently releases Lise and asks if she is okay, apologizing for taking matters into his own hands. He looks her in the eyes, realizing that through all of this, no one has actually asked her what she truly wants. Lise looks from Hirotaka to her teacher, a new strength hardening her gaze. Taking a deep breath, she steps forward, positioning herself between the two of them. She faces her teacher not as a frightened child, but as a young woman ready to speak for herself. She begins by respectfully telling him that she is truly grateful for everything he has taught her. She promises that she will return home someday because she has not given up on her dream of becoming a court magician. She pauses, gathering her courage, but not now. "Right now, I want to stay with the Junketeers," she declares, tears of resolve streaming down her face as she explains she can do her best here with them. Ashen Glow looks at her, a strange, unreadable emotion in his eye. He speaks softly, almost to himself, wondering how long it has been since she last expressed her own will so clearly. Lisa's confidence wavers as she asks if she even has the right to say such things after she lied to them all. Rachel smirks, now free from her own bonds. She reminds Lise that she herself once betrayed the party's trust, yet she is still here. Hirotaka puts his hands on his hips and shouts with a huge grin that of course it's fine. His smile is bright and full of acceptance. Rachel offers a warm, encouraging smile of her own. Overwhelmed by their kindness, Lise looks at her friends, fresh tears of pure happiness welling in her eyes. Rachel turns to the court magician, calmly arguing that Lise is making good progress here before casually asking how long he's keeping her restrained. Hirotaka and Rachel comically praise Lisa's skills, with Hirotaka enthusiastically adding that her healing magic even improves your skin condition. Rachel strikes a dramatic pose, having effortlessly broken her bonds, and declares that as a magic genius, her judgment is absolute. Lise is a wonderful magician. Ashen Glow listens to their passionate defense without a word. He turns away slightly, admitting quietly that he knows Lisa's potential better than anyone. He then reveals a stunning secret. As the bearer of the legendary blessing of chakra, Lisa could never possibly lack talent. Rachel's jaw drops in shock. The blessing of chakra is a divine gift from the world of myths. Hirotaka looks confused, admitting it's another thing he doesn't understand, but at least it explains why Lise's holy magic is so powerful. Ashen Glow explains that his true mission was to nurture that divine talent and guide her to become a full-fledged court magician. The depth of his conviction is clear in his eyes. This was his purpose. However, he says, turning back to face them, his tone shifting, he lays down a challenge. If they are so certain this is the right place for Lisa, then they must prove it. Hirotaka and Lise exchange a confused glance. The mage reminds them of the conversation he overheard when he arrived. He looks them dead in the eye and tells them to take on the dragon subjugation quest and bring him the dragon's head. He sets the conditions. If they fail, or if another party claims the prize first, Lise will return home with him immediately. He adds that it shouldn't be an impossible task for her, and that he cannot leave his student with a party that can't handle such a challenge. Before anyone can object, Hirotaka leans forward, his eyes burning with fire, and roars that they accept the challenge. The three adventurers stand united, their faces a mixture of shock, nervousness, and absolute determination. Ashen Glow studies their resolved expressions for a long moment. He nods, simply saying that he has his answer. He turns away, his body beginning to fade as he activates another teleportation spell. As he disappears, he tells them he will handle matters with the Montaigne family and will return when their task is done. Lise calls out to his fading form. With tears of gratitude, she thanks him for giving her this chance, apologizing for being such a selfish student. For a fleeting moment before he vanishes, a soft, proud smile graces his lips. He has given his student the chance she needed. In a shimmer of light, he is gone. The challenge is set. Hirotaka breaks the silence with a cheerful grin, declaring that they have no choice but to succeed. Rachel smirks, puffing out her chest as she says her arms are itching for action, though her rumbling stomach suggests she may just be hungry. Lise clenches her fists, understanding this is a test for her to finally master the incredible power she was born with. Her eyes widen with a thrilling realization. This is her chance to become strong. With renewed purpose, the three shout together. Their goal is clear. They will claim the dragon's head. From a dark corner of the guild hall, a small, sleepy sound is heard. Gisela, the lazy demon king, sits up from a nap, musing to herself that what started as a boring human drama is suddenly becoming very entertaining. A wicked, fanged smile spreads across her face. She peeks out the window, watching the newly motivated party with keen interest. The adventurers prepare for their greatest challenge yet. Far away, in a land of rugged, towering mountains, another story is unfolding. A massive, reptilian eye snaps open. A gargantuan, shadowy form moves against the sky. With incredible speed, the creature soars through the air. It is a magnificent dragon, covered in shimmering scales and a mane of sharp, feather-like fur. The beast flies with power and grace, a true king of the skies. Meanwhile, inside a lavishly decorated guild hall, another group of adventurers receives their assignment. Kenichi the hero taps a wanted poster announcing to his party that they are going to hunt a dragon. His companions are stunned. A dragon hunt is far more dangerous than the easy jobs they prefer. They immediately start to complain about the difficult journey and the fearsome beast. Kenichi's face darkens as he coldly asks if they have a problem, threatening to kick them out of the party. One teammate snaps back, but Kenichi scoffs, saying he can't be compared to people who just play around. He declares that he will never live his life as a nobody, and he will force everyone to acknowledge his superiority. His thoughts grow bitter. The glory of defeating a demon king was stolen from him. But by who? His face twists in a mask of fury. Whoever it was, he finds it unforgivable. In sharp contrast, Hirotaka smiles brightly, ready to face the future with his real friends. The day of the hunt arrives. In a vast, snowy valley, adventurers from all over have gathered for the great dragon extermination. Hirotaka and his friends look around at the huge crowd of powerful warriors, the whole experience feeling exciting and new. Suddenly, a small, cloaked figure floats beside Hirotaka. It's Gisela. Annoyed, he asks why she followed them. She gives a lazy smile, explaining that dragons are a rare sight, and she simply wanted to watch the show. He stares at her, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. He knows she is up to something. Not far away, a group of burly adventurers are laughing and pointing at someone. They mock the person, calling him a decorative hero who is all for show and no substance. The junketeers watch the commotion, and Rachel wisely suggests they stay out of it. The target of their insults is Kenichi. One of the men sneers at him, calling the hero dead weight. Hirotaka's eyes widen slightly in recognition. The leader of the rude adventurers steps up to Kenichi, angrily asking who he is calling dead weight before recognizing him. Kenichi looks down on him with utter contempt, insulting the man's intelligence. The adventurer's eye twitches with pure rage. He roars, drawing his sword and lunging forward in a blind fury. With lightning-fast speed, Kenichi draws his own blade and effortlessly blocks the attack. The attacker gasps in shock, unable to believe how easily his strike was stopped. Kenichi coolly states that he has no time to waste on incompetent fools. His eyes flash with a cold, deadly light as he warns the man that if he gets in his way again, he will make him disappear. The intimidated adventurers back away, grumbling that the so-called hero was nowhere to be found when a real demon king attacked the town. Kenichi simply turns his back on them, telling them to go home and stick to the easy jobs they prefer. He and his party walk away, with Kenichi declaring the encounter a complete waste of time. Hirotaka watches his old party, noting that they haven't changed at all, and their reputation has clearly fallen. As they walk, one of Kenichi's teammates clutches his head, complaining about the stressful situation. The others agree, whining that they shouldn't have come and that nobody seems to want them here. Kenichi snaps, angrily telling them it's their weak attitude that makes other adventurers look down on them. Fed up, one of the party members grabs Kenichi by the collar, shouting that he doesn't care what others think. He complains about being dragged on this dangerous mission just because Kenichi thinks their skills are being wasted. Kenichi stares him down with a cold, unyielding gaze. He pushes the hand away and calmly explains that this single quest offers a massive reward, the most efficient way to maintain their lifestyle. From a distance, Hirotaka continues to watch the tense scene unfold. Rachel comes to his side, asking if he knows them and noting the obvious tension. He explains that they are his former companions, the ones who kicked him out, but tries to brush it off by saying he was weak back then. Lise is amazed, knowing that Kenichi's attack nullification skill is an incredible, famous power. Hirotaka clenches his fist with excitement, declaring that his old party is now a powerful rival in this quest. Unbeknownst to them, other adventurers are whispering that Hirotaka, the one kicked out of the hero party, is now rumored to be an amazing adventurer. The rumor eventually reaches Kenichi's ears. The person who actually defeated the Demon King was none other than Hirotaka. Kenichi freezes, his mind reeling. He refuses to believe it can be true. In his memory, Hirotaka is just a useless boy with a garbage skill, someone to be thrown away. Overcome with rage, Kenichi screams at the sky, challenging the dragon to appear so he can prove his superiority. As he shouts, he looks up. Something is happening. A massive shadow suddenly falls over the valley, plunging the entire area into an eerie darkness. The other adventurers look around in confusion, one pointing a trembling finger toward the sky. A terrified adventurer gasps. It has appeared. Casting its immense shadow over everyone, the legendary beast arrives. The dragon descends, its colossal form blotting out the sun, even more terrifying and majestic than the legends. As the other adventurers freeze in terror, Hirotaka acts. He shouts for Rachel. Without hesitation, she unleashes her magic, creating a swirling vortex of wind that rushes towards the beast. Her spell hits the dragon, creating a powerful updraft to cushion its landing. Kenichi watches from the ground, stunned by the incredible display of magical power. He wonders who could cast such a powerful spell. His eyes then widen in shock as he sees a figure using the updraft to leap high into the air, soaring towards the dragon. It's Hirotaka. "I'll take that head," Hirotaka yells, his voice filled with resolve as he flies towards the beast. The dragon responds instantly, its head snapping forward as it unleashes a blinding torrent of energy from its mouth. Caught in midair, Hirotaka desperately raises his sword, calling on its power to break the mana. He is completely engulfed by the powerful blast. The force of the attack sends him hurtling back to the ground as Lise and Rachel cry out his name in horror. He sits up, covered in soot but miraculously unharmed, groaning that it really hurts. He looks down at his demon sword, confused why its special skill, Mana Break, didn't work at all. "That's because those flames aren't from magic," a familiar, smug voice explains as Gisela floats down beside him. Hirotaka looks at her, completely bewildered by her statement. As if to prove her point, the dragon unleashes another massive ball of pure, raw energy. The party leaps back as the blast hurtles towards them, and Hirotaka yells for everyone to be careful. He lands on his feet, battered but ready, his eyes fixed on the new threat. The fiery energy clears, but the dragon is gone. In its place stands a tall, muscular man with wild red hair and horns. The strange man grins, his eyes locking onto their tiny companion. He says he has finally found her. He speaks a single name, Gisela. Hirotaka stares in disbelief. The dragon just turned into a person. The dragon man stomps his foot and yells at the tiny demon king, complaining that she was incredibly difficult to find because she is so small. Gisela covers her ears and retorts that he's the one who's absurdly big, while he shouts back that men are supposed to be as big as possible. Hirotaka is completely stunned, caught between a lazy demon king and a loud, hot-headed dragon man. He turns to Gisela, the only one who might have answers, and asks if this new guy is an acquaintance of hers. She gives him a sly, knowing smile, suggesting that he should stop playing dumb and has probably already figured it out. As the dust settles, Gisela reveals his identity. He is Tristan, the demon king of wrath. The surviving adventurers murmur in terror. A second, far more dangerous demon king has appeared. Hirotaka can hardly believe it, muttering that this has to be a cruel joke. From across the battlefield, Kenichi stares up at the powerful new foe. A wild, opportunistic grin spreads across his face. The dragon is a demon king? This is the perfect chance to reclaim his fame. His mind races with the possibilities. If he can defeat this being, he will be a true hero. Tristan turns, his eyes glowing with terrifying power, and his gaze lands on Kenichi. Kenichi flinches, a bead of sweat running down his face as he feels the crushing pressure of the Demon King's aura. Tristan ignores the hero and focuses on Gisella's group, demanding to know if she has found the magic sword. Gisela casually points a thumb at Hirotaka, telling Tristan to just kill him and take it back. She drapes herself over Hirotaka's shoulders, announcing that she is quitting and giving her title to him as he furiously objects. Tristan's face is a mask of utter disbelief. His voice is dangerously low. A dark, oppressive aura begins to radiate from him, so intense that even Gisela looks on with concern. Tristan's voice is laced with disappointment. He tells her he respected her laziness, a trait befitting a demon king. He clenches his fist, his voice dropping to a deadly growl as he informs her that there is no quitting their kind. Sensing the catastrophic power about to be unleashed, Hirotaka screams a desperate warning for everyone to get down. Tristan raises a single hand, and the very sky seems to warp into a swirling vortex of pure destruction. His reptilian eye glows with malevolent light as he issues a one-word command to perish. An earth-shattering explosion of energy erupts, engulfing the entire valley. The world is consumed by a blinding white light. Everything becomes a blur as the shockwave tears across the landscape. An eerie silence follows. In the aftermath, Hirotaka pushes himself up from the scorched earth, battered and disoriented. He looks around in horror at the desolate, smoking wasteland, where the bodies of adventurers are scattered across the crater. He sees one of the fallen adventurers groan and gasps with relief that they are still alive. He then notices a soft, glowing light enveloping each of the unconscious warriors. It's a gentle, holy light, a protective spell. He knows instantly who cast it. He frantically looks for Lisa, calling out her name. His heart stops. His relief turns to ice. He sees Lise, her face pale with shock, cradling the unconscious and gravely wounded form of Rachel. Liza's voice trembles as she whispers that Rachel protected her. A flashback reveals the moment of the explosion. Rachel knew they couldn't withstand it. She braced herself, cursing their powerlessness. But then, a barrier of light from Lise appeared around her. Rachel made a split-second decision, shouting that she would use all her own mana to shield Lise in return. She urged Lise to master her blessing, telling her that she was the only one who could protect everyone. She gave Lise one last confident smile, telling her she could definitely do it. Back in the present, Lise holds her fallen friend, remembering Rachel's last request to save Hirotaka. Tears stream down her face as she whispers, full of guilt, that she wasn't strong enough to protect them. Hirotaka rushes to her side, his voice full of encouragement, insisting that everyone is still alive because of her. He takes command, telling Lisa to focus on healing while he finds a way to deal with the Demon King. Wiping her tears, Lisa nods, her expression hardening with resolve. Gisela floats beside Hirotaka, her tone mocking as she asks if a mere human can truly stop an enraged Demon King. She gives him a sinister, fanged grin, telling him it's impossible unless he becomes a Demon King himself. Hirotaka glares at her, his voice shaking with anger. A menacing shadow falls over him. Tristan is standing right behind him. Hirotaka's eyes widen in absolute terror. The Demon King of Wrath speaks a single, disdainful word. Weak. He unleashes a savage punch that sends Hirotaka flying. He moves like a blur, pummeling Hirotaka again and again, roaring "weak" with every brutal blow. Hirotaka screams in agony, completely powerless to defend himself. He is smashed into the ground, broken and defeated. Tristan howls in fury, enraged that such insignificant weaklings are making him lose his composure. Gisela floats nearby, looking utterly bored by the one-sided massacre. Hirotaka coughs weakly, lying in a crater of shattered rock. The terrifying reality crashes down on him. This is the power of a true demon king. He feels a bone-deep despair. He knows he cannot win. Tristan looms over the battlefield, sneering at the survivors, calling them trash who dare to think they matter. He opens his mouth, ready to unleash another attack and end it all. But Lise stands defiant, her small form glowing with holy light. Tristan looks at her, annoyed by her persistence. Hirotaka screams, trying to warn her. A desperate voice echoes in his mind. It's Osoro, the demon sword, begging him to make a contract. A vision of Gisela appears, her eyes wide with a crazed, hopeful glee. But another voice, gentle yet firm, cuts through the chaos. You can't! Hirotaka is stunned. The voice is Lisa's. She stands alone against the Demon King, her back to her friends. She turns her head slightly, her gaze unwavering. Tristan roars that Small Fry should die like Small Fry. He unleashes a blast of pure, dark destruction aimed straight at her. The world seems to slow down as the attack hurtles toward Lisa. Hirotaka can only watch in horror. Lisa's voice fills his mind, asking him if he remembers their first meeting. He remembers telling her that her kindness was a more powerful medicine than any magic. A vision of Lise appears before him, battered but with a beautiful, genuine smile, telling him she truly loves his kindness. She explains that if he becomes a demon king, he might not be himself anymore, and she cannot accept that. Gisela looks on, visibly irritated by Lisa's unnecessary interference. Lisa's final message rings out, a powerful, emotional vow. If he becomes a demon king, she will resent him. Hirotaka is shaken to his core. Her words stop him from making a choice he would regret. Tristan watches the exchange with utter contempt, muttering how ridiculous it is. He raises his hand. He commands them to regret their powerlessness and die, snapping his fingers to unleash a final wave of power. But at that exact moment, dozens of glowing circles of holy magic erupt across the battlefield, shielding every fallen adventurer. Lise screams, pouring all of her will into her protection spell. Her chants echo across the wasteland, a desperate symphony of protection and healing. The holy light intensifies, forming a massive barrier against Tristan's power. The memory of Rachel's confident smile flashes in her mind. The memory of her teacher's firm belief in her talent gives her strength. Lisa's eyes burn with a new, fierce light. She is no longer afraid. In her mind, she stands in the ruined hall of her childhood, finally admitting to her younger self that she always knew she had an absolute power within her. She always knew where to find it. She looks at her past self with compassion, not fear. She whispers that she was scared for so long, and she is sorry for continuing to look away. She embraces her younger self, finally accepting the power she had denied for a decade, and begs it to lend her its strength. An explosion of pure, divine light erupts from her, so bright it forces even the demon kings to shield their eyes. Both Tristan and Gisela stare in shock at the unbelievable phenomenon. The light coalesces, forming the towering, ethereal figure of a goddess. Goddess? Hirotaka whispers from the ground, his eyes wide with awe. It is the Holy Mother Chakra, manifested in the physical world, with Lise floating peacefully at its center. She prays to the merciful deity that has answered her call. Her eyes open, glowing with a sacred, sun-like pattern, as her voice echoes with a single heartfelt plea to protect everyone. The divine being, Chakra, reaches out a gentle hand over the devastated battlefield. From the scorched earth, dark tendrils of energy dissipate as the unconscious adventurers are lifted into the air. A soft, protective light envelops them completely, healing their wounds and soothing their pain. The goddess gathers all the fallen warriors into a massive sphere of pure, healing light, holding them safe. Tristan stares, his rage momentarily replaced by disbelief at the impossible sight of a divine manifestation. He growls, unable to comprehend how a mere human could summon such a being. Sitting on the ground, Hirotaka looks up, mesmerized by the holy light, and whispers how amazing it is. Lise, at the heart of the goddess, clasps her hands in prayer, begging the Holy Mother Chakra for just a little more of her power. Her face is a mask of intense concentration as she pleads for the strength to stop the Demon King's rampage. Tristan recoils in shock. Hirotaka's jaw drops in disbelief. Even Gisela looks on with wide-eyed surprise at what happens next. The goddess's eyes snap open, glowing with an otherworldly light. With surprising force, the divine being delivers a powerful blow directly to the Demon King's face. Lisa's voice, imbued with the goddess's power, echoes with newfound emotion. She declares that she is so angry, her divine power fully awakening. Her eyes, closed in concentration, snap open again. The goddess's eyes glow brightly, reflecting Lisa's own determination. Tristan roars in shock and pain. The towering goddess begins to repeatedly and rhythmically pat Tristan all over, like a parent scolding a naughty child. The mighty demon king of wrath is relentlessly patted into submission, unable to comprehend the humiliating attack. Hirotaka can only stare, completely dumbfounded, stammering Lisa's name. Tristan finally manages to grab the goddess's hand. He seethes, confused by her strange power. He roars, questioning how dare she talk so arrogantly, but the goddess's expression remains serene and unfazed. He finishes his roar, unleashing his own power against her. A wave of dark energy erupts from him, but it harmlessly dissipates against the goddess's holy aura. Tristan surrounds himself with his dark, destructive flames, roaring that she cannot kill him. The flames lash out, but the divine manifestation of chakra remains untouched, a calm beacon in a sea of darkness. Lise strains, the immense effort of maintaining the divine presence taking its toll on her. Tristan glares at her, his annoyance growing. Lise, breathing heavily, tells him that as the god of protection, chakra will render his attacks useless. She is confused when he doesn't seem angry about his attacks failing. Tristan explains that he isn't mad because she blocked him. He's mad because of her shallowness. He reveals a terrifying truth. Summoning a divine being is a forbidden technique with a terrible price. He asks if she is trying to die, knowing the act is draining her life force away. Hirotaka freezes in horror at the revelation. Lisa hangs her head, knowing the cost. She is on a timer, but she is determined. She just has to endure until Hirotaka finds an opening. Tristan's silhouette appears, a wicked grin on his face, asking whoever said his flames were only made from magic. He reveals another horrifying secret. He can create hellfire from both mana and his own body, meaning he can burn forever. He begins a new chant, calling upon a flame god to grant him the power of divine judgment. A massive, swirling sphere of black and white energy forms above him, a cosmic meteor. He boasts that this spell has enough power to destroy a mountain and challenges the guardian god to endure it. The massive meteor descends, and Lise groans, knowing her power isn't enough to stop it. Just then, Hirotaka appears beside her, fully recovered. He gives the goddess a quick, apologetic look. He yells an apology to the deity as he uses her divine form as a launch pad. He soars towards the meteor, declaring that if the attack is magic, then a god isn't needed to stop it. He screams the name of his skill, Mana Break! He swings his sword, and in a brilliant flash, he slices the catastrophic spell in half, causing it to dissipate into nothing. His eyes are filled with fierce determination. Tristan watches, completely stunned by this turn of events. He can't believe this human, this small fry, has so perfectly mastered the magic sword. Hirotaka lands beside Lise, gently scolding her for doing such reckless things by herself. Tristan's eyes narrow. He repeats the name he just heard. He recognizes the name as Japanese, which catches Hirotaka completely off guard. Hirotaka asks how he could possibly know about Japan. Tristan breaks into a wide, surprising grin, exclaiming what a surprise it is to meet a compatriot here. He spreads his arms wide and makes a shocking declaration. He is also a former Japanese person, summoned here over 100 years ago. Hirotaka exclaims in disbelief. 100 years? Tristan's grin becomes sly and dangerous, suggesting that as a fellow Japanese, Hirotaka must understand the irresistible charm of power. He then does something truly bizarre, opening his mouth impossibly wide. He begins to pull the hilt of a sword from his own throat. With a flourish, he draws a long Japanese katana, boasting that this is his magic sword, Legion. Hirotaka stares, confused. He has never seen a katana before, not even a magical one. Tristan is baffled, explaining that he comes from a far more modern Japan than Hirotaka, a time with no such weapons. He dismisses the confusing details, his focus returning to the battle. He advances, excited, having been curious for a while now about which magic sword is the strongest. One Japanese man to another, he grins, his sharp teeth on full display. Let's have a serious match. He challenges Hirotaka to a duel. His magic sword Legion versus the magic sword Osoro. The two swordsmen stand ready, facing each other across the desolate battlefield. From a distance, Kenichi watches the impossible scene. Hirotaka, standing equal to a demon king with a goddess hovering behind them. He and his one remaining party member are the only other survivors, the rest saved by Lise's magic. Kenichi trembles, sweat pouring down his face, unable to comprehend what he is seeing. His companion, terrified, tells him to run, that there's nothing they can do here. Kenichi repeats the word run, his eyes vacant. He can't run, not when he still hasn't proven his own existence. His companion looks at him with a mix of pity and frustration. He finally gives up, telling Kenichi to do whatever he wants before walking away alone. Kenichi remembers the thrill he felt when he was chosen by this world. Being chosen was supposed to be proof of his superior value, like a perfect diamond outweighing a worthless stone. So why, he wonders with dawning horror, is no one looking at him now? The duel is fierce. Hirotaka clashes with Tristan, the force of their blows shaking the ground. Hirotaka struggles to hold his ground against the Demon King's overwhelming strength. Tristan roars that there is no time to rest, his attacks becoming faster and more relentless. Suddenly, a third blade enters the fray, blocking Tristan's katana. It is Kenichi. Both Hirotaka and Tristan are surprised by his sudden intervention. Kenichi's eyes are wild and desperate as he demands the Demon King look at him. Hirotaka cries out, filled with relief that Kenichi is safe. He's amazed by the power of Kenichi's attack nullification skill and suggests they fight together. But instead of attacking Tristan, Kenichi spins and swings his sword directly at Hirotaka. Hirotaka yells in shock, barely dodging the unexpected betrayal. Kenichi's voice is cold as he says that Hirotaka is the one who should be questioned. He glares, his face contorted with rage, demanding to know why a useless incompetent is fighting the Demon King. He then points his sword at Hirotaka. His eyes gleaming with a mad desire, he demands the magic sword. Hirotaka is completely stunned. Kenichi continues, his voice filled with bitter resentment, claiming he knew Hirotaka's success was strange. He sneers, concluding it must be because of the sword, and that someone excellent like him can make better use of it. Kenichi's twisted logic echoes in his mind. He was chosen, so what right does a worthless person have to be saved? He flashes back to the moment he realized he had power in this new world. He remembers seeing Hirotaka, just an ordinary, confused person beside him. For Kenichi, this power meant one thing. It meant he had value. He snarls at Hirotaka, accusing him of acting superior with power that isn't even his own. He screams, his jealousy completely consuming him as he tells Hirotaka not to get full of himself. Hirotaka yells back, trying to reason with him that this is not the time for infighting, but Kenichi is beyond reason, shrieking that Hirotaka's calm attitude is annoying. Tristan watches, his face a mask of pure fury, growling that this idiot has interfered with a serious match between men. The Demon King's rage, once focused on one, now turns on both of them. Hirotaka realizes the situation is dire. This is bad. Kenichi just scoffs, too blinded by pride to see the danger. Tristan raises his magic katana, and Lise watches in terror as the divine presence around her fades. With a single devastating slash, Tristan's blade cuts through the divine manifestation of chakra. Lise gasps in shock as her ultimate protection is shattered. The world is once again engulfed in Tristan's destructive power. A massive fissure is carved into a distant mountain by the force of the attack. Tristan lands, his single strike having overwhelmed both god and hero. The divine light fades, and Lise stumbles, exhausted. She whispers that it can't be happening as her body gives out. She collapses to the ground, and Hirotaka screams her name in panic. He rushes to her side, fearing the worst. He breathes a sigh of relief. She is only passed out. Tristan stands over them, a cruel grin on his face, boasting that when enraged, his magic sword can cut through anything. Not even the defensive magic of a god can stop it, and neither can an attack nullification skill. A horrific, swirling vortex of dark energy has torn through Kenichi's midsection, a wound no mortal could survive. He coughs up blood, his eyes wide with disbelief as his life drains away. Hirotaka looks over at his fallen former leader, urging him to stand up, that the match isn't over. Tristan ignores the dying hero, his eyes fixed on Hirotaka, eager to continue their duel. Hirotaka doesn't look away from Kenichi, a pained expression on his face. As Kenichi fades, he stares up at Hirotaka. He rasps, asking if Hirotaka is going to finish him off. He scoffs weakly, believing Hirotaka must have secretly hated him all this time. A memory plays in his mind, a vision symbolizing his own worldview of the strong casting out the weak. His entire life has been ruled by a simple, cruel belief. He hates incompetent people. He lies on the ground, confused. Hirotaka isn't moving. He waits for the final blow, but it never comes. His eyes snap open in shock. The fatal wound in his stomach is gone. He stammers that his body is healed. Hirotaka stands before him, admitting it was his first time using the skill, but that he's glad it worked. He reveals the name of his own secret ability: immortality, attribute, bestowal, explaining it was the only thing he could think of to save him. Kenichi is speechless, asking why Hirotaka saved him after everything. When Kenichi asks why, Hirotaka's answer is simple: it's because he doesn't want him to die. Kenichi stares, utterly broken by this act of pure, unconditional kindness. His entire worldview shatters in that single moment. But Tristan has lost his patience and unleashes another blast of energy. Hirotaka shouts Kenichi's name as his former leader is sent flying by the explosion. Tristan roars, infuriated by the constant interruptions to their match. He glares at the unconscious bodies of Kenichi and Lise. He calls them all trash, whose very existence was a mistake. He looks down at the injured Rachel. Hirotaka's kindness finally reaches its limit. He grips Osoro tightly and tells him to shut up. He erupts in a burst of righteous fury, roaring that self-centered people like Tristan have no right to call anyone garbage. As he yells, his left arm dissolves into black particles. His ultimate skill came at a great cost. He stares at his disintegrating arm in shock and pain. Tristan grabs Hirotaka by the head, forcing him to his knees and sneering that living for others is an excuse for losers. He calls Hirotaka's life miserable, a pathetic cycle of weaklings using each other under the false name of companions. But as he kneels in the dirt, broken and bleeding, Hirotaka realizes something profound. He was saved by them. Tristan is confused. Hirotaka explains that when he came to this world, he lost everything, but because he found companions, he was never truly lonely. He looks up, his gaze clear and strong, and declares that because he's not lonely, no matter what happens, he'll be fine. Tristan is visibly shaken. Hirotaka's words have struck a deep, forgotten chord within the centuries-old Demon King. Hirotaka's eyes begin to glow with a dark, otherworldly power. The time has come. A memory surfaces, a quiet moment when he asked Gisela how to form a contract with a magic sword. He remembers her simple answer: offer it your blood. She had explained the ritual. You must let your blood dye the entire blade, and then wish for power with all your heart. Gisela had been thrilled, thinking he was finally ready to accept his destiny. He remembers holding a knife, ready to make the choice. In that memory, he had decided against becoming a demon king, but he had made a new promise to his sword. He had apologized to the friends he would eventually betray with this act. He had sliced open his arm, letting his blood pour onto Osoro, accepting that kindness alone cannot protect those he loves. He had made a pact with the demon sword, setting a condition. When the time comes that he must discard his kindness, he wants it to make him a demon king. In the present, an immense vortex of dark energy explodes from Hirotaka. Gisela floats nearby, cackling in triumph. Contract complete, she announces with a terrifyingly joyful grin. Dark tendrils of pure demonic energy erupt from his body. He is completely consumed by the swirling darkness. The darkness writhes and takes a new shape. When the energy recedes, Hirotaka is transformed. His hair is now stark white, and demonic horns curl from his head as he wields a newly transformed Osoro. In a flash, he appears before Tristan, their swords clashing with a force that cracks the very air around them. Tristan's eyes gleam with manic excitement. This is the battle he craved. The new Hirotaka looks at him with cold, piercing eyes, his voice flat and devoid of emotion as he delivers a chilling promise. He will be returned to nothingness. In another time, another world, a furious battle rages between titans. A horned man roars with absolute fury, while a divine woman with glowing eyes observes with unnerving calm, as a young priestess named Rise simply smiles with confidence. The divine being, a god called Sha, raises her hands, and with an impossible display of power, she conjures a miniature version of the horned man, trapping him in her grasp. She squeezes the tiny figure, and he lets out a muffled, agonizing scream. Watching nearby, a young hero named Hirotaka can only look on in shock, calling out Rise's name in confusion. But suddenly, a hand reaches out, firmly stopping the god's immense power. It is Rise. She has halted her own summoned deity, calmly scolding the powerful being for such a reckless display of force. The horned man crashes back to his full size on the ground below, enraged that Rise would dare speak so disrespectfully to him, the demon king of wrath. Dark energy crackles around his body as he warns her not to get so proud. He unleashes a powerful roar, shouting that she could never kill him as a massive wave of dark flames erupts from his body. The terrifying attack surges forward, a torrent of destruction aimed directly at the god, Chakra. But the flames strike a brilliant barrier of light and vanish instantly. Rise stands before her god, exhausted but completely unharmed, muttering a curse under her breath. The Demon King looks on from a distance, remarking how truly annoying her defenses are. Catching her breath, Rise declares that since Chakra is a god of protection, his attacks will never reach them. She looks up at him with defiance, demanding to know what he is trying to say. The Demon King floats in the air, explaining that he isn't angry because his attack was blocked. He is angry because she is being incredibly foolish. He warns her that her technique of summoning a god into the mortal world is a forbidden art with serious, life-threatening consequences for the user. With a look of genuine concern, he asks if she is actively trying to kill herself. Rise gasps and clutches her chest as her body trembles with exhaustion and pain, realizing that the Demon King was right all along. Hirotaka watches from the side, his face filling with shock and worry for his dear friend. Rise looks down, her expression hidden by her hair as the terrible weight of her decision settles upon her. She knows the danger, but she resolves to hold on for as long as she possibly can, needing only to buy enough time for Hirotaka to find an opening to strike. New determination shines in her eyes as she silently vows to endure the agony for her friend's sake. The Demon King smirks, a dark shadow falling across his face as he asks if she really thinks his flames are fueled only by magic. He then reveals a terrifying secret. He can create his hellfire from both his magic and his own life force, meaning he has a truly endless supply of energy. He begins a powerful chant, offering both his magic and his very life to a great flame god, calling for a divine fire to burn his foolish enemies to ash. A massive, swirling sphere of dark energy appears in the sky, a terrifying spell he calls a cosmic meteor. The Demon King grins wickedly, boasting that this magic is powerful enough to destroy an entire mountain as he challenges the god of protection to survive it. The massive meteor begins its descent, the sheer pressure of its fall shaking the very ground beneath them. Rise struggles just to stand, her body weak from exhaustion as she can only whisper her god's name in desperation. She looks up at Hirotaka, who watches the meteor fall with a calm, focused expression. Suddenly, Hirotaka leaps into the air, using the floating god's head as a stepping stone and apologizing for the disrespect. He yells that for a mere magic attack like this, the god's help isn't needed. With a determined roar, he shouts the name of his ultimate defensive technique. Mana break! He thrusts his spear forward, and a wave of pure energy shoots out, completely shattering the massive meteor into harmless dust. The Demon King stares in utter disbelief, shocked that such a weak-looking human could master a magic-destroying sword so perfectly. As Hirotaka stands ready for what comes next, he turns to Rise and gently tells her not to do such reckless things by herself ever again. The Demon King overhears their conversation and questions the name he just heard. Hirotaka. He notes that the name sounds distinctly Japanese, causing both Hirotaka and Rise to gasp in complete surprise. Hirotaka looks up, completely stunned, and demands to know how a Demon King could possibly know about a place like Japan. The Demon King spreads his arms wide with a joyful, booming laugh, declaring what a wonderful surprise it is to meet a fellow countryman in a place like this. He then reveals the shocking truth. He is also from Japan, but he arrived in this world over 100 years ago. Hirotaka is left speechless, unable to process the incredible idea that this demon was once a human from his world who has been here for a century. The Demon King smiles slyly, suggesting that since Hirotaka is also Japanese, he must understand the unique beauty of his weapon. He clenches his fist with raw, bubbling excitement and lets out a passionate shout that echoes across the wasteland, startling Hirotaka. With a sharp metallic sound, the Demon King bites down on the handle of a sheathed sword and dramatically pulls out a magnificent Japanese katana, proudly calling it his Magic Sword Legion. Hirotaka stares in confusion, admitting that he has never seen a real Japanese katana before, even a magical one. Now it is the Demon King's turn to be confused, as he explains that he comes from a much older Japan, a time of swords and shogunates, while Hirotaka clarifies that the modern Japan he knows has neither. The Demon King dismisses their different origins with a wave of his hand, saying it doesn't matter. He begins to walk toward Hirotaka, his eyes gleaming with a manic excitement as he explains he has been curious for a while about which magic sword is truly the strongest. He gets right in Hirotaka's face, a wide, challenging grin spreading across his lips. As one Japanese man to another, he proposes a serious match to see whose magic sword is superior. The two warriors now face each other across the barren wasteland, their weapons held at the ready for a legendary duel, while below, Rize and her god Chakra watch over them. Meanwhile, watching from a safe distance, two other young men look on in absolute shock, realizing that they seem to be the only ones who survived the earlier devastation. One of them, a boy named Kenichi, stares with wide, tearful eyes, unable to comprehend what he is even seeing. His friend turns to him, desperately urging him to run away, insisting there is nothing they can possibly do against monsters of that level. Kenichi looks back, confused and angered by the suggestion to run. His eyes widen with desperation as he refuses, shouting that he hasn't done anything to prove that he even matters yet. His friend, seeing that Kenichi's pride won't let him listen, gives up and tells him to do whatever he wants before walking away alone. A flashback begins, revealing Kenichi's inner turmoil and his memory of how his heart trembled with excitement when he was first chosen by this world. He had always believed that being chosen was proof that he had value, but now he feels like a worthless rock being weighed against a brilliant diamond. He looks down, his face etched with sadness and despair, wondering why no one is paying any attention to him. Back in the present, the duel rages on. Hirotaka and the Demon King clash their blades in a blinding flurry of strikes. Hirotaka groans, pushed back by the Demon King's raw, overwhelming power as he struggles just to hold his ground. The Demon King roars with wild laughter, telling him there is no time to rest in a battle like this. Suddenly, Kenichi rushes in between them, his own sword raised to block the Demon King's next devastating attack. Both Hirotaka and the Demon King are completely stunned by his sudden appearance, as Kenichi stares with desperate, wide eyes, demanding that the Demon King finally look at him. Hirotaka is overcome with relief, calling out Kenichi's name and exclaiming that he is safe. He smiles, happy to see his friend alive, commenting on his impressive attack-blocking skill and suggesting that they fight together. But Kenichi suddenly turns and swings his sword directly at Hirotaka, who is forced to jump back in shock. Hirotaka screams in disbelief, demanding to know what Kenichi is doing. Kenichi looks at him with cold, hateful eyes, retorting that he should be the one asking that question. He angrily asks why someone so useless and incompetent like Hirotaka is the one who gets to fight the Demon King. He seems to remember something, his anger building. Then, with a crazed, jealous look in his eyes, he points his sword at Hirotaka and demands that he hand over his magic sword. Hirotaka can only stare, completely bewildered by his friend's shocking betrayal. Kenichi continues his bitter rant, saying he thought it was strange that Hirotaka was doing so well in the fight, claiming it's only because of the magic sword and that someone truly excellent like himself could make better use of it. In a quick flashback, we see Kenichi in his old world consumed by the thought that he was the one who was chosen. He remembers the moment he first discovered his new powers in this world. He recalls seeing Hirotaka, who seemed so normal and unassuming, and feeling with certainty that he was the one with true, inherent value. Back in the present, Kenichi clenches his teeth in pure fury, enraged that Hirotaka possesses such incredible power even though he believes him to be incompetent. He lunges at Hirotaka, his face twisted with rage as he screams at him not to get so full of himself. Hirotaka panics, yelling at his friend to stop, insisting that this is not the time for fighting each other and that they need to cooperate. Kenichi only screams back that Hirotaka's calm and relaxed attitude is what's making him so angry. The Demon King's face darkens with annoyance. He says that he doesn't know who this idiot is, but he has just interfered with a serious and honorable match between men. A powerful, terrifying energy erupts from the Demon King as he stands between the two arguing boys. Both Kenichi and Hirotaka freeze in their tracks, finally realizing the terrible danger they are now in. Rize, watching from afar, sees the Demon King raise his sword and cries out a desperate warning to her god and everyone else. In a single, blinding flash of movement, the Demon King swings his katana, and the blade passes right through the divine body of the god. Chakra. The immense force of the blow creates a massive shockwave that carves a deep canyon into the earth as Rise watches in absolute, silent horror. The Demon King calmly sheathes his sword, his back turned to the utter chaos he has just caused. Rize stands frozen, muttering that it can't be real. Her hair stands on end from the sheer magical energy still lingering in the air as she struggles to comprehend what she has just witnessed. Overwhelmed by the psychic shock from her god being destroyed, Rize's body goes limp and she collapses to the ground, unconscious. Hirataka screams her name and immediately rushes to her side. He kneels beside her, a wave of relief washing over him as he realizes that she has just passed out from exhaustion. The Demon King stands over them, a cruel, satisfied smile on his face, as he explains that when his magic sword legion gets angry, it can cut through absolutely anything. He continues his boast, saying it doesn't matter if its target is a god's ultimate defensive magic, or even a special skill that is supposed to nullify all attacks completely. The horrifying result of his attack is finally revealed. Kenichi lies dead on the ground, his body sliced clean in two, his lower half dissolving into a swirl of dark dust. Lying on the cold ground, Kenichi gasps. His body is severed, but somehow, miraculously, he is still alive, his eyes wide with pain and utter disbelief. The Demon King ignores him completely, his focus entirely on Hirataka as he tells him to get up, declaring that their duel is not over yet. With an intense hunger for battle burning in his eyes, the Demon King tells Hirataka that he is itching to fight his magic sword, not even noticing what's happening just behind him. Hirataka stares down at Kenichi's dying body, and Kenichi, with the last of his fading strength, looks back at the friend he so foolishly betrayed. In his final, fleeting moments, he wonders if Hirataka is now going to deliver the final blow himself. He weakly accuses Hirataka, whispering that despite all his kind words, he must have secretly hated him all along. Kenichi's bitter vision of the world flashes in his mind, a world where the strong kick the weak down, because that's just how it is for incompetent people. His final thought is a projection of his own self-loathing, a deep and profound hatred for the incompetent. But as his life finally begins to fade, he sees something so impossible that it makes him question everything he ever believed. His eyes snap open in pure, undiluted shock. Kenichi sits up, his body whole and completely healed once more. The fatal wound has vanished. He looks down at himself, utterly bewildered, whispering that he has been healed. Hirataka stands before him, a look of immense relief on his face as he admits it was his first time using this power, but he's glad it seems to have worked. He explains the miraculous ability he just used, a secret power called Immortality Attribute Bestowal, confessing that while he wasn't sure if it would work on another person, it was the only thing he could think of to save him. Kenichi is stunned into silence, unable to comprehend the word immortality. He asks Hirataka why. Why would he save him after everything he just did? Hirataka's expression hardens, his resolve clear as he prepares to answer the simple, yet profound question. He yells with all his heart that the reason is obvious. He saved him simply, because he didn't want him to die. Kenichi stares, his mind reeling. He had been so consumed by his own jealousy and bitterness that he never once considered such a simple, selfless reason for his friend's kindness. But their emotional moment is shattered in an instant. The Demon King, tired of waiting for his duel, lunges forward in a deadly blur of motion. A massive explosion erupts right where Kenichi was just moments ago, and Hirataka can only scream his friend's name in pure horror. The Demon King looks utterly disgusted, complaining about how annoying they all are for getting in the way of his serious match. Looking at Kenichi's now lifeless body, he coldly dismisses him as garbage that only makes people uncomfortable. He glances at the bodies of the other fallen heroes scattered across the battlefield, calling all of them trash, whose very existence was a mistake. Hirataka's hand tightens on his weapon, his knuckles turning white as he quietly tells the Demon King to shut his mouth. His voice then rises to a roar of pure, unadulterated fury as he screams that a selfish, heartless monster like the Demon King has no right to call anyone garbage. In a flash, the Demon King strikes, and Hirotaka's arm is sliced clean off at the elbow. Hirotaka's face contorts in a silent scream of agony and utter shock. The Demon King lectures him, sneering that living for others is nothing more than a pathetic excuse used by losers to justify their own weakness. He continues his cruel speech, claiming that the very idea of companions is just a way for weaklings to use and exploit each other, as Hirotaka collapses to his knees, clutching the stump of his arm while black energy spills out like blood. He hangs his head in despair, believing he has failed. He had been saved by his friends, and now he was powerless to protect them. But then, a new resolve fills him. He looks up at the Demon King and explains that when he first arrived in this world, he had lost everything he had ever known. A flood of precious memories appears before him, the smiling faces of Rise, Rachel, and all the friends he has made, and he declares that because he found them, he was never truly lonely. With unwavering certainty shining in his eyes, he declares that because he is not alone, he will be fine, no matter what happens to him. The Demon King seems genuinely surprised, even shaken, by the incredible power of Hirotaka's heartfelt words. A flashback begins. We see Hirotaka remembering a time when he asked how one makes a contract with a magic sword. A voice from the past explains that the method is simple, but costly. You must offer your own blood. A mysterious, demonic girl named Osoro, the spirit of his sword, elaborates on the ritual. She tells him he must offer his blood until the blade is completely red, and then he must beg for the power he desires. Osoro is excited, seeing that he is finally interested in unlocking his true, hidden power. But Hirotaka hesitates, holding a small, cursed-looking dagger in his hand. He looks at the strange dagger, its ancient and unsettling design making him uneasy. He speaks to his sword, Osoro, telling her that he truly likes his quiet, carefree life and has no desire to become a powerful demon king. But his thoughts drift, considering a dark possibility. He makes a solemn vow. If the day ever comes when he absolutely needs power to protect the people he cares about, he thinks of his dearest friends, Reese and Rachel, and silently apologizes for the choice he knows he must make. He declares that kindness without the strength to protect is utterly meaningless, as he drives the cursed dagger into his own hand, letting his blood spill onto his weapon. He finishes his promise to the sword. When that dark time comes, he will throw away his kindness, and in return, Osoro must transform him into a demon king. Back in the present, Hirotaka is enveloped in a massive storm of swirling dark power. The contract has now been fulfilled. The dark energy solidifies, instantly reforming his severed arm. Osoro appears beside him, a wicked grin on her face as she announces that the contract is complete. Hirotaka rises, reborn and transformed. His hair is now stark white. Black horns sprout from his head, and his arm has become a demonic claw. His simple spear has twisted into a terrifying demonic weapon. The new Demon King Hirotaka clashes with the Demon King of Wrath, their incredible power now seemingly evenly matched. Hirotaka's eyes are as cold as ice. He promises his opponent that his end is near. This is his rebellious awakening. The two warriors become a terrifying whirlwind of destruction, their epic battle shaking the very foundations of the world. Their movements are far too fast to follow, a chaotic and beautiful dance of clashing blades and swirling dark energy. Hirotaka, now a natural master of his new demonic power, aims his transformed weapon with deadly, unshakable precision. His gaze is sharp and terrifyingly focused, all traces of the kind, gentle boy he once was now hidden behind a mask of cold, righteous fury. The Demon King blocks the powerful attack with his katana, but Hirotaka's cursed weapon immediately begins to eat away at the legendary blade. He looks at Hirotaka's determined face and cruelly compares his eyes to those of a foolish prey animal that actually thinks it's the predator. With a wild, manic grin, he admits that while it's incredibly annoying, it's not a bad look. He can feel his own sword, Legion, trembling with excitement for a true, all-out fight. The Demon King throws a powerful punch, but Hirotaka effortlessly blocks it with his newly formed demonic hand. The Demon King's living sword, Legion, seems to whisper its own desires, hungry to slash its new, powerful opponent to pieces. The two demon kings face each other across the shattered landscape, one fighting for pride and the thrill of battle, the other for the memory of his fallen friends. The demon king of wrath taunts him, asking if this is all the power he has, and boasting that he will end this pathetic struggle in an instant. Their weapons transform and clash again. Osoro now a massive, curved blade that perfectly matches Legion's power and form. A fist connects with a jaw in a brutal, powerful, and completely unexpected blow. It is Hirotaka who landed the punch, sending the mighty Demon King flying backward across the wasteland. The Demon King crashes hard into the ground with the force of a bomb, sending rocks and debris flying everywhere. Hirotaka stands victorious for a fleeting moment, his transformed arm once again severed in the exchange, but his fighting spirit completely unbroken. He looks on with a calm, unreadable expression, as if he is already calculating his next move in this deadly chess match. He tells the Demon King not to get so cocky, as he effortlessly catches the falling katana, Legion, and tosses it back to its stunned owner. He then dashes forward, moving faster than the eye can possibly see, leaving multiple trails of slicing energy in his wake. His face is a mask of pure, focused intensity, his entire being dedicated to this one final attack. He leaps high into the air, twisting his body to deliver a devastating, unstoppable downward strike. The Demon King can only look up in stunned, wide-eyed disbelief at the impossible attack unfolding before him. He realizes in that split second that Hirotaka sacrificed his own arm just to create this perfect opening, never even attempting to dodge the last attack. Hirotaka's eye glows with a terrifying, otherworldly power. He grabs the Demon King by the face, and a torrent of dark, destructive energy courses through his hand and into his enemy. The Demon King roars in pure agony as the overwhelming power floods his body. With a powerful, perfectly aimed kick, Hirotaka knocks the magic sword Legion from the Demon King's grasp. The legendary katana is sent spinning helplessly through the air, out of its master's reach. The immense force of the exchange sends Hirotaka flying backward through the air. He looks at the stump of his arm, surprised and alarmed to see that it isn't healing this time. He quickly realizes that there are limits to his new, incredible regenerative powers. Undeterred, he uses his incredible speed to create multiple afterimages of himself, completely confusing his disoriented opponent. He lands softly, his transformed sword at the ready, prepared to continue the fight against the now disarmed Demon King. Osoro appears by his side, laughing with delight. She praises his clever move, admitting that most new Demon Kings aren't capable of fighting with such advanced strategy. The Demon King recovers, admitting it was a fair, if incredibly reckless, strategy. Hirotaka explains that he realized the Demon King's last attack was a fire-based slash that cauterized the wound, preventing his regeneration. Osoro warns him that just because he can regenerate doesn't mean he should be reckless, because his enemies will always find ways to counter his abilities, and even a Demon King will die if his head is cut off. Hirotaka listens intently, fully understanding his ultimate weakness. He simply nods and says that he sees. The Demon King, whose name is apparently Tristan, tells Osoro to stop interfering, angrily stating that a former Demon King like her has no right to get involved in his fight. Hirotaka ignores their argument completely and asks Osoro what other powers his new form can use. Osoro thinks for a moment, then says that as a Demon King, he should now be able to use powerful magic. She begins to explain that to use magic, one must first call upon a god or a spirit. But Hirotaka, having studied magic with his friends, is already one step ahead and begins his own chant. He offers his own life force as a sacrifice to summon a demonic army from the underworld, and black, bloody spikes erupt from the ground all around them. Osoro throws a tiny tantrum, angry that he didn't even let her finish her explanation, but Hirotaka pays her no mind, his focus entirely on completing his spell. Another memory surfaces. He sees Rize happily teaching him the basics of magic, explaining that all spells are made up of multiple specific parts. She explains the complex formula of a spell, and in the memory, Hirotaka is taking detailed notes, trying his best to understand the intricate system. His other friend, the elf Rachel, gives a clear example using Rize's own protection magic, and Hirotaka thinks to himself that he wishes he could grasp basic common sense as easily as he grasps complex magic theory. Rachel smiles warmly and offers to teach him more about magic, while Rize, standing next to her, looks happy for her friend. Hirotaka looks up, a bit shy but genuinely curious, and says that he is indeed interested. He smiles with pure sincerity, explaining that Rize and Rachel have helped him so many times with their magic, and he wants to understand it better so he can be a better companion to them. In the memory, his two friends look at him with kindness and deep affection, happy to share their world and their knowledge with him. The warm memory fades, cruelly replaced by the heartbreaking image of Rise and Rachel, lying unconscious and defeated on the cold, hard battlefield. Back in the present, fueled by his love for his friends and his burning desire for vengeance, Hirotaka completes his powerful spell, and a massive vortex of dark, chaotic magic swirls in the sky above him, ready to be unleashed. A powerful flash of pure energy erupts from the ground at his feet. Hirotaka looks up with cold, hard determination, declaring that he already knows what he must do. From the dark pools of energy he summoned, a monstrous, terrifying claw digs itself into the earth. A terrifying beast rises from the summon. It's a gigantic, multi-limbed demon with glowing eyes and sharp, menacing horns, and it towers over Hirotaka, ready to obey his command, the Demon King. Tristan bursts into genuine, hearty laughter, clearly impressed by the display. He shouts that it's not bad at all. He then erupts in brilliant, roaring flames, his own immense power surging to meet this new and exciting challenge. Tristan stands surrounded by his fire, facing the newly summoned beast with a look of pure, unadulterated excitement. Hirotaka stands his ground, his hand outstretched, ready to command his new, powerful, and terrifying ally. The summoned beast lets out a deep, menacing growl that shakes the ground, its glowing eyes fixed intently on Tristan. From Tristan's own swirling flames, a new creature begins to form. A roaring, vicious beast made of pure, white-hot fire. The fire beast lunges forward, a blur of burning, untamed rage. It closes in on Hirotaka's summoned monster, its fiery claws extended, ready to tear its opponent apart. The two colossal monsters clash in a fiery, earth-shattering, and spectacular explosion. Through the blinding chaos of the battling beasts, Hirotaka rushes forward, his goal unchanged. Tristan also moves to meet him, a confident, knowing smirk on his face. Tristan stands tall, his power on full display as he asks Hirotaka what he thinks of a true Demon King's power, suggesting that it's pretty amazing. As Hirotaka runs past him, Tristan explains that living only for oneself is the most natural way to be when you possess such overwhelming strength. But he admits that even he eventually got bored with it. He continues, shouting over the roar of the battle that in a world so full of weaklings, there are precious few chances to go all out in a real, satisfying fight. His face twists into a hungry, almost crazed expression as he begs Hirotaka to show him more of his intense, pure desire to kill. Hirotaka remains completely silent, his expression cold and his focus entirely on his one and only goal. He finally speaks, calmly stating that the phrase, "for my companions," is a very nice-sounding one. Tristan looks confused by this sudden and completely unexpected comment. A demonic hand suddenly appears from behind Tristan as Hirotaka explains that in the end, everything a person does is still for their own selfish desires. The demonic hand grabs Tristan's face in a shocking and seemingly impossible turn of events. Tristan is completely stunned, unable to understand what is happening. He looks down and realizes with absolute horror that it is Hirotaka's own severed demonic arm, which he had sacrificed earlier, that has somehow moved on its own and grabbed him. Tristan roars in a mix of pain and surprise as the disembodied arm tightens its powerful, unbreakable grip. He looks over at Hirotaka, who stands far away, and wonders what kind of terrifying monster he is truly fighting. Tristan realizes with dawning horror that he can feel Hirotaka's unwavering, powerful will coming directly from the severed arm itself. He feels the burning, raw hunger in that arm, a pure, undiluted desire to kill him, as if it were still a living part of Hirotaka himself. The arm fights with all the strength and purpose of a complete, determined person. A dark, chilling, and unbelievable thought forms in Tristan's mind as he wonders if Hirotaka blew his own body apart completely on purpose. He questions if Hirotaka's true ultimate goal was always just to kill him, or if it was all for the sake of protecting others. Osoro, watching the incredible scene from a safe distance, thinks about this ridiculous idea and admits that she had the same thought at first, but she knows Hirotaka's true nature. She says that he is the type of person who doesn't care what it takes to win, and she is absolutely sure that that part of him will never change. Osoro looks at Hirotaka's determined form, a look of pride on her face as she states that he is greedy and, more than anyone else in the world, perfectly suited to be a demon king. The severed arm continues its relentless assault, its incredible strength forcing the mighty Tristan backward. Tristan growls in frustration, struggling against the arm's unbreakable, crushing grip. He roars in a mix of pure frustration and unbearable agony. With a final explosive burst of concentrated dark energy, the severed arm is completely and utterly destroyed. Tristan's body is left charred and smoking from the powerful, self-destructive, and desperate attack. Only a blackened, disintegrating hand remains of the demonic arm that had held him. Osoro calmly notes from the sidelines that it was a very, very close call. Hirotaka corrects her, saying that he would like to think so, but he knows deep down that it's not over yet. Tristan's charred body is already regenerating at an incredible, impossible speed. Despite the powerful and clever attack, he has taken almost no lasting damage at all. Osoro points out the ridiculously powerful regeneration of a true ancient demon king, a power that Hirotaka himself has just begun to experience. Hirotaka calmly states that he just has to keep attacking relentlessly until one of his blows finally gets through for good. Osoro gravely tells him no, that he doesn't have the luxury of time for that kind of strategy. Tristan picks up his legendary katana, Legion, his eyes burning with renewed fury as he tells Hirotaka not to mess with him. He clenches his teeth, infuriated beyond words. He asks if Hirotaka really truly thinks an attack like that could ever kill him. He lunges forward, his rage now at its absolute, uncontrollable peak. Hirotaka stands his ground, his weapon raised, ready for the final, desperate confrontation. But then, a look of complete shock crosses his face. Something is terribly wrong. Tristan slams into him with the force of a freight train, sending him flying across the desolate battlefield. Tristan follows up with a devastating, bone-shattering punch directly to Hirotaka's face. Hirotaka is thrown back violently, his body skidding across the barren, rocky ground. He struggles just to get up, groaning in pain as he feels his incredible strength rapidly failing him. He collapses to his knees, utterly defeated. Tristan stands over him, finally victorious. Suddenly, Hirotaka realizes with dawning horror that he can't move his body at all. He is completely paralyzed. At the same time, Tristan's fiery beast bites down hard on Hirotaka's summoned monster, its powerful jaws closing like a steel trap. The summoned beast cries out as it's instantly destroyed, dissolving into a harmless cloud of black particles. Tristan looks down at the paralyzed Hirotaka, mocking the look of confusion on his face, as if he has no idea what just happened. Tristan states coldly and simply that his time is up. Hirotaka looks completely confused. Time's up? What could he possibly mean? Osoro explains from afar that it takes a great deal of time for a new demon king's power to fully stabilize in their body, and that Hirotaka's incredible transformation was only a temporary boost of power. She adds that on top of being a brand new demon king, he was constantly and recklessly using his limited power to regenerate and cast massive magic spells. Osoro tells him it's no surprise that his time ran out so quickly. Hirotaka looks exhausted and incredibly annoyed, complaining that she should have told him that crucially important detail much, much sooner. His powerful demon form begins to fade away. The horns shrink, the demonic features vanish, and all his incredible power disappears in an instant. Tristan grabs the now weakened Hirotaka by the throat, lifting him effortlessly into the air. Tristan says that if Hirotaka hadn't fought so recklessly and burned through all his power so quickly, he might have been able to enjoy their incredible fight a little longer. Hirotaka struggles for breath, cursing his own powerlessness in this final, hopeless moment. Osoro watches from afar, her expression grim and her mind already calculating her next move. She thinks to herself that if Hirotaka dies, the vengeful Tristan will surely come for her next. Deciding to save herself, she quietly turns and starts sneaking away from the battlefield before anyone notices. But Tristan senses her leaving and calls out to her, using her true name, Gisela. He threatens that no matter where she runs, he will hunt her down and kill her for her past betrayals. His legendary katana, Legion, flies through the air as if with a mind of its own and stabs itself deep into the ground, completely blocking Osoro's only escape route. Tristan clicks his tongue in annoyance. He tells Hirotaka that in the end, he just wasn't cut out to be a real demon king. He decides that using a legendary magic sword on a half-baked failure like Hirotaka would be a total and complete waste, declaring that he'll just crush him with his own bare hands. Hirotaka screams in agony as Tristan's grip tightens around his throat, crushing the very life out of him. His mind races in pure desperation, frantically trying to think of anything, any last resort that could possibly get him out of this. A sudden, sharp ping sound echoes clearly in his mind. His eyes snap wide open in sudden recognition. He knows that sound. Tristan also hears the strange, unexpected noise and looks around, wondering where on earth it came from. Hirotaka realizes with a jolt of pure, unadulterated hope what the sound means. It's the sound of his special skill, Junk Collection, finally finishing its long cooldown period. The Sword Legion, still stuck in the ground far away, becomes his one and only target. Collect, he thinks, focusing all his remaining will and desperation on that single word. Tristan is completely confused by Hirotaka's sudden change in demeanor, from utter despair to intense, unwavering focus. Hirotaka looks at him, his voice weak but somehow clear and strong as he asks Tristan what he meant when he said using a magic sword would be a waste. Tristan just looks at him, completely confused by the strange and seemingly irrelevant question. Hirotaka struggles to speak, asking if he still doesn't get it yet. He then throws Tristan's own arrogant words right back in his face. To kill someone like you, I don't need a magic sword. He reminds Tristan that he said those very words just a moment ago, a challenge that will now be his undoing. Tristan is suddenly shocked as a sharp, unimaginable, and impossible pain erupts in his chest. Legion, his own legendary magic sword and trusted partner, has pierced him clean through the chest, from behind. He looks down in utter, complete disbelief, unable to understand why his own sword would betray him in this crucial moment. Hirotaka explains simply, reminding Tristan that he was the one who said he didn't need it anymore. With a final desperate look of triumph, Hirotaka declares that the legendary sword is his now. Tristan stares, his mind completely unable to comprehend this final, brilliant, and utterly impossible move. Hirotaka, using the very last of his strength, pushes the blade even deeper into his enemy. Osoro is just as shocked as Tristan, wondering if that was Hirotaka's Junk Collection skill in action. She questions how it could possibly be. The skill is only supposed to collect random, useless items from the battlefield. He shouldn't have been able to specifically target and control a legendary weapon like Legion. Osoro watches, her own demonic eyes wide with disbelief as she dismisses her own theory, thinking it couldn't have been skill. It must have been incredible, unbelievable luck. But she reconsiders her initial thought, wondering if it's possible that his transformation into a demon king also changed his unique skill, evolving it into something far more powerful. With Tristan's own sword in his hand and pointed directly at its master's chest, Hirotaka grits his teeth, focusing all his hope and desperation on this one, final, desperate push. He holds the sword steady, his temporary demon form still, crackling with dark, unstable energy, ready to end the epic battle once and for all. But suddenly, he feels a strange, unsettling sensation and lets out a gasp of utter confusion. His eyes widen in alarm as a wave of intense dizziness hits him, and he has no idea what is happening to him. A powerful torrent of energy, memories, and raw emotions begins flooding into his mind directly from the magic sword. Tristan also feels the sudden strange connection, his eyes widening in shock as he feels his own life force being rapidly drained away. For the first time in over 100 years, the mighty demon king of wrath contemplates his own end, whispering, "Me? Die?" A violent storm of Tristan's thoughts and feelings crashes into Hirotaka's mind. 100 years of pride, rage, and profound loneliness threaten to overwhelm him. The intense psychic backlash is far too much for him to handle, and he stumbles backward, his grip on the sword weakening. Tristan sees his opponent faltering and roars with a strange mix of anger and desperation, yelling for Hirotaka not to dare die on him now that he has finally found a worthy rival. With a final desperate surge of pure, indomitable willpower, Tristan's muscles tense. Hirotaka is shocked as he feels an immense, unstoppable force pushing back against the blade, realizing with horror that the sword won't go any deeper. Tristan bellows his name and his title, a powerful declaration of his own existence against the encroaching darkness of death. With a final massive explosion of pure power, he roars to the heavens that he is the mightiest demon king. The resulting shockwave throws Hirotaka backward, his final brilliant gambit having ultimately failed. He collapses onto the barren ground as Tristan stands tall and defiant, having cheated death itself. Tristan breathes heavily, a mix of pure relief and thrilling exhilaration on his face as he realizes the battle is finally over. He looks at his legendary sword, Legion. The blade, having been forced by an outside power to betray its master, begins to crack and crumble into dust. The once mighty, legendary katana dissolves completely into nothingness, leaving Tristan completely and utterly unarmed. Hirotaka, completely exhausted and defeated, can only watch, his hope now gone. Tristan stands over him, cursing under his breath. He is not happy about his victory, but deeply disappointed that the incredible fight has come to an end. He admits to himself that it has been a very, very long time since he felt death so close, and the raw thrill of it was absolutely intoxicating. He looks at his empty hand where his trusted sword once was, and a new, brilliant, and insane idea forms in his mind as he declares that he has decided. He looks down at the defeated Hirotaka and announces his unbelievable plan. He is going to make Hirotaka even stronger. Tristan explains his new purpose in life. He will train Hirotaka to completely master the Demon King's power, and by eventually surpassing his new student, he himself will rise to even greater, unimaginable heights of strength. With a wild, ambitious grin, he declares that in the end, once he has become the true strongest being in the entire world, he will kill Hirotaka with his own two hands. Hirotaka, completely drained of all energy, can't even begin to comprehend the bizarre, twisted logic, and asks what on earth Tristan is even talking about. Tristan gives him a wicked, knowing smile and asks a chilling question. If he were to kill Hirotaka's companions right now, would that give him the proper motivation to get stronger? The simple, cruel threat instantly reignites the fierce, protective fire in Hirotaka's eyes, and his exhaustion is completely replaced by pure, cold rage. Tristan sees the look and grins. That is exactly the look he wanted to see, for he has now found his rival's greatest weakness and his greatest source of strength. His new goal now perfectly clear, Tristan turns and begins to walk away, leaving Hirotaka kneeling defeated on the ground. He stops for a moment, as if remembering one last, important thing. He grabs one of his own large, curved, demonic horns. With a sharp grunt of effort, he snaps it clean off his head. He casually tosses the broken horn over his shoulder to Hirotaka. He calls it a little souvenir, a gift to thank Hirotaka for giving him a new and exciting purpose to look forward to. He leaves Hirotaka with a final, chilling challenge, to show him how far his desires can truly push him and what he is really willing to do for the sake of his friends. And with that, the mighty Demon King of Wrath vanishes in a burst of incredible speed. His final echoing words hang in the air across the wasteland. "Until we meet again, compatriot." Hirotaka is left, completely alone, clutching the demonic horn, his expression grim and his future now forever intertwined with that of his greatest enemy. News of the epic battle spreads like wildfire across the land. The appearance of a second powerful demon king plants a deep and profound fear in the hearts of people everywhere. The heightened vigilance toward this new and unknown threat urges nations all across the world to begin preparing their own countermeasures. However, the world remains blissfully unaware of the true nature of this new power, for no one could have possibly known that the birth of this quiet, unassuming demon king would be the event that would one day shake the very fate of their world. The scene changes. In a grand and opulent palace, a quiet knock-knock is heard at the massive throne room door. Inside, a man in heavy, dark, fur-lined robes named Lord Garasar approaches the throne, thanking the prince for agreeing to see him. The young ruler, Prince Euenis, asks what he wishes to discuss. noting that a personal visit from the Lord is highly unusual and must be of great importance. Lord Garasar explains that with the recent appearance of a new demon king, they must take immediate measures to protect their people, and the prince readily agrees. Garasar then reveals his true, ambitious, and sinister plan. He proposes that they subjugate the new demon king and claim his legendary magic sword for the kingdom. With a wide, unsettling grin, he promises the young prince that if he is the one to control the sword's power, no more demon kings will ever appear, and the world will finally know true peace under his rule. The prince is skeptical, asking how they could possibly hope to defeat a demon king with only their current military forces. Garasar assures him there is no need to worry, explaining that they won't need the kingdom's army. All they will need is the prince's full cooperation. He explains that while his own territory is small and seemingly insignificant, his people have been researching a very special and powerful technique in secret. He reveals his secret with a wicked smile, a special, forbidden technique to create their very own heroes. The prince is amazed by this remarkable news. Garasar confirms it is true, and at the prince's eager request, he presents them. 7 dark, mysterious, hooded figures emerge silently from the shadows as Lord Garasar introduces them as the 7 holy heroes who swear to serve the prince and defeat the Demon King. A few days later, back at the Adventurers Guild House, the unbelievable aftermath of the battle is being discussed among friends. The Catgirl Guildmaster is in a state of complete shock, barely able to process the incredible news she has just heard. The elf, Rachel, lets out a long, weary sigh, confirming that it's all true and admitting that so much happened that it was all very overwhelming. The priestess, Rize, agrees wholeheartedly, her face hidden in her hands as she relives the terrifying, life-changing ordeal. Hirotaka stands before them, looking completely normal again as he quietly expresses his own profound relief that he was able to return to his human self. His friends rush to him, and Rize calls out his name, needing to be sure that it is really him standing before her. They all crowd around, poking and prodding him to confirm that he's real, and he laughs, telling them to stop their foolishness. Rize bursts into tears of pure, unadulterated relief, sobbing that she truly thought he was gone forever. Hirotaka does his best to comfort her, assuring her that he's completely fine. Osoro, the ancient spirit of his sword, floats nearby, looking completely unimpressed and utterly confused by the messy emotional display. She bluntly states the hard facts of the matter. No matter how normal he looks on the outside, the unchangeable truth is that he has in fact become a demon king. His friends agree that it is incredibly strange. Even considering the time it takes for such immense power to settle, he seems almost completely unchanged, both in his appearance and in his kind personality. Osoro offers a possible hopeful explanation, wondering if, during the chaotic transformation, she was able to hold on to the human heart that he should have lost forever. Hirotaka looks down at the magic dagger at his belt, Osoro's physical form in this world, and realizes that she might be right. Rize looks at the small dagger with a new and profound appreciation, her tears now ones of pure, heartfelt gratitude as she thanks Osoro for saving her friend's humanity. Hirotaka turns to Rize and sincerely apologizes for making her worry so much once again. Rize looks down, her expression suddenly turning very serious. She tells him that she understands he made the difficult and dangerous contract with the sword for their sake, but now she needs him to make a very important promise to her. With fresh tears welling in her eyes, she asks him to promise that even if he becomes a demon king again in the future, he will never go far away and leave them all behind. Of course, he agrees instantly, and they seal their solemn promise in the traditional way, by linking their pinky fingers. Rachel joins in on the promise, her own hand covering theirs, and the 3 friends share a moment of renewed connection, their bond strengthened by the ordeal. Their faces are filled with genuine relief and pure happiness, their friendship, having been tested by the fires of an impossible battle, now stronger and more unbreakable than ever. The cat girl brings them all back to reality, asking if they are really okay with keeping Hirotaka's incredible victory a secret, reminding them of the adventurer rank up and the massive reward from the kingdom that they are now passing up. Hirotaka explains that it's for the best because he doesn't want the world to find out that he too has become a demon king. He sincerely apologizes to his friends for the trouble this will cause. Rachel says she has no right to complain, feeling that she dropped out of the battle too early to be of any real help. Reese quickly jumps to her defense, passionately insisting that that's not true at all. She reminds them all that Rachel stood strong and bravely protected her from the Demon King's terrifying attacks, and that thanks to her, she didn't get a single scratch. Rise gives Rachel a grateful and affectionate head pat, calling her incredible, and Rachel blushes, happy to be praised by her friend. The mood is light and cheerful again. Rachel says they have no complaints about his decision, and the cat girl insists she isn't disappointed either, though Hirotaka teases that she clearly is. Osoro floats down, grumbling that it's a huge and pointless waste to become a demon king and have nothing to show for it. Hirotaka turns to her, his expression suddenly serious as he asks how long she is planning to stick around, reminding her that her mission to find a new host for her power is now technically complete. Osoro flips upside down, getting right in his face, and playfully asks if he's really sure he wants to have that kind of attitude with her. She leans in conspiratorially, reminding him that there are still many things he doesn't know about the terrifying power of a demon king, things he might need her help to understand. She teasingly tells him to beg her to stay with tears in his eyes, but he immediately shouts back that he would never do that in a million years. He accuses her of just wanting to mooch off of them and be lazy, and she flips over with a cheerful laugh, admitting that he's exactly right. Hirotaka's expression turns thoughtful, and he admits that there are indeed things he needs to know. He thinks back to the battle, to the moment he grabbed Legion and felt a strange and overwhelming flood of voices and memories pour into his mind. Osoro relents, saying that while it will be a pain, she supposes she will look after them all for a little while, claiming it's only because if something were to happen to Hirotaka, Tristan would become a major nuisance for her. Just then, a new figure appears in the doorway. It is Kenichi, the friend who betrayed them and was then saved by Hirotaka's kindness. He scuffs his foot on the ground and mutters a single insulting word to Hirotaka. Pathetic. He turns to go, abruptly announcing that he is leaving, and Hirotaka looks at him, completely confused, telling him he just got here. Kenichi walks away, noting that Hirotaka's other companions seem to have gone somewhere else for the moment. He turns back, his eyes filled with a strange, new, and unsettling intensity. He looks directly at Hirotaka and says something that makes no sense. Hey, Kenichi, join the Galactors. Kenichi tries to explain his reasoning for leaving, suggesting that the immortality Hirotaka gave him might have unknown and dangerous side effects. Hirotaka looks at him with genuine concern, telling him that it would be better if they all stayed together to figure it out safely. But Kenichi angrily rejects the kind offer, snapping that he finds Hirotaka's righteous attitude of trying to be kind to everyone incredibly annoying. Rachel finally loses her patience, stepping forward to scold Kenichi and remind him that he should be grateful, because if Hirotaka hadn't saved his life, he would be dead right now. Kenichi turns away, his face clouded with conflicting emotions, unable to argue with the truth of her words. As he walks out the door, he stops and says that he will count Hirotaka, saving his life as a debt that he owes. He disappears into the hallway, promising that he will find a way to repay that debt someday. He looks back one last time, his eyes filled with a new, fierce determination, and tells Hirotaka that he doesn't need his pity or his help. He is going to find his own purpose with his own two hands. As the door slams shut, his voice is heard one last time, yelling that their party name, Galactors, is incredibly lame and they should definitely change it. Rise watches the door close, her face full of genuine worry as she asks Hirotaka if he thinks Kenichi will be okay on his own. Hirotaka looks thoughtfully after his departed friend and says that he has a strange feeling that Kenichi might actually become something special someday. Before he can explain, a new figure appears in the now open doorway. It's a tall, slender man with long, pale hair and strange dark markings on his face. Hirotaka, Rise, and Rachel all gasp in complete shock at the sudden and unexpected visitor. The man looks down at them with a tired but familiar gaze, and Hirotaka recognizes him instantly, crying out his name, Ashin-sensei! A wave of pure, unadulterated panic washes over Hirotaka as he remembers something crucial that he had forgotten in the chaos. He realizes with dawning horror that with everything that was going on, he completely forgot about their teacher's life-threatening condition, and that if they hadn't defeated the Demon King, their teacher would have surely died from the dragon's poison. Hirotaka stammers, completely unsure of what to say. But their teacher, Ashen, suddenly falls to his knees, his entire body shaking with overwhelming, uncontrollable relief. He looks at Rise, his voice cracking with emotion as he says her name. Tears well up in his eyes as he tells her how incredibly glad he is that she is safe. Rize is completely stunned, taken aback by this raw, emotional display from her usually cold and distant teacher. Ashen explains that the news of their desperate battle didn't reach the nearby town until long after it was all over. He looks at her with deep, profound regret, admitting that if he had known the dragon they were fighting was secretly a demon king, he would have never let her take such a dangerous and life-threatening risk. Rize just stares, seeing the genuine sadness and profound worry etched on his face. Hirotaka and Rachel whisper to each other, both realizing at the same time that their teacher wasn't cold and distant at all. He was just extremely and secretly overprotective of his beloved student. Ashen formally apologizes to Reese for all the cruel and harsh things he said to her in the past, confessing that he was only so hard on her because he was secretly hoping to scare her into giving up her dangerous adventuring dreams and returning home safely. He tells her how incredibly proud he is of her. Instead of giving up, she faced the impossible danger head-on, proved her strong will, and allowed her hidden magical talents to finally bloom. With a rare, warm, and genuine smile, he tells her that she has also managed to find herself some truly wonderful companions. Reese is completely speechless, her eyes wide with the sudden, heartwarming realization that her teacher had cared so deeply for her all along. Hirotaka smiles, breaking the emotional tension, and happily announces that he will now officially allow Rise to stay in the Galactors, causing Rise and Rachel to cheer with pure joy. Ashen watches them, sniffing back tears of pride as he comments on how hard Rise must have worked, using her magic until her mana was completely and utterly drained. But Ashen's expression suddenly turns grimly serious as he asks Rise a pointed and worrying question about her mana. The happy mood vanishes in an instant, and everyone turns to Reese, nervously waiting for her answer. Rise looks down, her hands clasped nervously in front of her as she admits that she knew she would have to tell them the truth sooner or later. With a look of deep, profound sadness, she delivers the devastating news. It seems that she can no longer use magic at all. Otaka and Rachel can only stare, completely stunned into silence by her shocking confession. Rize says that she believes it must be a punishment from her god, Chakra, who was nearly destroyed because of her own recklessness. Ashen quickly corrects her, explaining that Chakra is a fundamental being tied to the very laws of the world, and if she were to be truly destroyed, the concept of healing magic itself would cease to exist for everyone. To prove his point, Rachel conjures a small, glowing ball of healing light in her hand, and Rise is immensely relieved that her god is safe. But Ashen's expression remains grim. He tells her the problem isn't with her, God, but with her own internal mana source. He explains the dire truth. Her mana source, the very core of her magical ability, has completely and utterly run dry, and the situation is far more serious than any of them had thought. Rachel cries out in alarm, asking what it means for a person's mana source to run dry. Ashen gravely explains that mana is an essential, life-giving nutrient for all living things in their world. He compares the mana source to a second heart and explains that if it stops working, the body's supply of mana is completely cut off, a condition which is always fatal. Hirotaka panics, desperately asking if there's any way to fix it, realizing with horror that if they can't do anything, Rize will eventually die. Ashen confirms their worst fears. With her mana source completely dried up, neither healing magic nor direct mana transfers will have any effect on her whatsoever. Just as all hope seems lost, the eye on Hirotaka's magic dagger, Osoro, begins to glow, and her voice chimes in, suggesting that a top-tier medical facility might be able to help. The dagger suddenly and mysteriously unbuckles itself from Hirotaka's belt. It falls completely free from its leather sheath. The dagger clatters loudly onto the wooden floor, and Hirotaka calls out Osoro's name, startled by her sudden action. He asks what has gotten into her, completely confused by her strange and unexpected behavior. As he reaches down to pick up the dagger, his hand begins to glow with a familiar, magical light. A small cloud of smoke erupts from his palm, and he jumps back in surprise, startled by the activation of his skill. He wonders aloud why his junk collection skill is activating all by itself. His eyes go wide as he stares at the strange object that has just appeared in his hand. It's a large, cooked piece of meat still on the bone. He stares at it, completely and utterly bewildered. Osoro looks on, a look of intrigue on her face as her plan begins to unfold. Hirotaka examines the meat, quickly realizing that it's nothing more than discarded leftovers. Deciding that it's completely useless, he moves to throw it away. But before he can, Rachel lunges forward with lightning speed, snatches the meat from his hand and shoves it directly into her mouth. She chews for a moment, then stops, just as confused as everyone else, and explains that she was suddenly hit by an irresistible, overwhelming urge to eat it. Her elven eyes widen in shock as a powerful jolt of pure energy courses through her entire body. She turns and looks directly at Rise with an intense, determined gaze. Rise looks back, startled and completely confused by Rachel's sudden, strange intensity. Rachel grabs Rize's face, pulls her close, and gives her a deep, passionate kiss, shocking Hirotaka into a screaming, flustered mess. Rize's face turns beet red, her mind going completely blank from the sudden and entirely unexpected affection. Rachel pulls away, still chewing on what she just transferred from her mouth to Rize's, as Hirotaka yells at her to spit it out, horrified by the whole bizarre situation. The entire room erupts into an uproar of complete and utter chaos and confusion. The kiss is shown again, this time framed in a more romantic and beautiful light, as if it were a fated, magical, and life-changing moment. Rize's eyes are spinning with dizziness, her mind completely overloaded and unable to process what just happened. Her hair stands on end from the sheer shock of it all, her face completely blank and unresponsive. Then, a deep, full-body blush spreads across her face, radiating warmth. She finally snaps back to reality, letting out a little hiss of pure confusion and embarrassment. Ashen stares intently, having witnessed a miracle, and asks himself if, for just a fleeting, impossible second, he saw Rize's mana source flare back to life. Hirotaka is still struggling to process the chaotic and unbelievable scene that just unfolded before his very eyes. Rachel finally explains her actions, saying that when she ate the leftover meat she felt a surge of mana recovery unlike anything she had ever experienced before, and she knew she had to get some of it to Rise immediately. She holds up the now bare bone, wondering what on earth this mysterious and powerful food could possibly be. Osoro floats nearby, a knowing, satisfied look on her face. It seems her suspicions were correct all along. She announces that she has a theory about the food, and she believes that with it, they might be able to completely revive Rize's dying mana source. Osoro gets a sly, mischievous look on her face, clearly wondering how she can use this crucial, life-saving information to her own personal benefit. She looks at Hirotaka with big, pleading eyes, feigning a sweet and helpful innocence. Desperate to save Rize's life, Hirotaka immediately falls for her act, begging Osoro and calling her by her true name, Gisela, to tell him her theory, promising to do anything she wants in return. Osoro looks at Hirotaka's desperate, pleading face, clearly pleased that he is now completely at her mercy. She floats up high, pretending to be nonchalant, and says that since she doesn't really hate this place, she might consider staying and helping them out. With a sudden, dramatic burst of energy, she declares that it's decided and tells everyone to get ready to go on a journey. Hirotaka looks at her, confused, and asks where on earth they could possibly be going. A massive, ancient gate made of white wood and entwined with the roots of giant, towering trees appears. Osoro explains they are going to the country where the magical meat was first created. The group arrives at the gate, amazed that such a massive and beautiful structure exists deep within this forgotten, overgrown forest. They are immediately confronted by an elven guard who steps forward and demands to know what business they have in the sacred, hidden land of Elendia. Hirotaka is completely confused, but Rachel freezes in her tracks, her body stiff with shock. She whispers the name Elendia, her voice filled with a mix of utter shock and profound disbelief. The guard looks closer at Rachel, immediately noticing her rare black hair and pale, wisteria-colored eyes. His own eyes go wide with sudden, dawning recognition as he calls out her full name, Rachel Lumeria. Hirotaka asks Rachel if she knows the guard, but she can only whisper that it's completely impossible. Her eyes are fixed on the crest emblazoned on the guard's armor, a symbol she recognizes instantly and deeply. A close-up shows the intricate and unmistakable royal crest of her lost and forgotten homeland. Rachel's face is a mask of pure disbelief as she struggles to understand what is happening right before her eyes. A vision of a beautiful, peaceful, and vibrant village fills the screen as Rachel explains in a trembling voice that Elendia is her homeland, a place that was completely destroyed many years ago. The guard leads the stunned group of friends into the hidden elven village. The village is alive and bustling with activity, as if it had never been touched by destruction at all. Hirotaka, Rachel, and Rise walk through the surprisingly lively streets of the rebuilt Elendia, all of them looking completely and utterly stunned. Hirotaka tries to confirm what he thinks he knows, asking Rachel if her homeland was really wiped out by a demon king. She confirms it, adding that while she knew there were a few other survivors, she never dreamed they could have rebuilt to this incredible extent. Rachel looks around, a strange and unsettling feeling creeping over her as she says that this new Elendia feels very, very different from the one she remembers from her childhood. From somewhere behind them, Osoro's voice squeals with pure, unadulterated delight as she spots something she likes. Hirotaka turns just in time to see Osoro has already wandered off towards a bustling food stall called Monster Skewers. And he sighs, exasperated that she's run off on her own again. The stall is covered with signs advertising all kinds of skewers made from orc tongue, minotaur, grilled kraken, and other dangerous and exotic beasts. Before Hirotaka can even think to stop her, Osoro is already happily stuffing her face with skewers, and he is completely shocked that people here actually eat monsters for food. The grilled meat on the skewers glistens invitingly under the light, looking surprisingly delicious, and even Hirotaka has to admit to himself that they look pretty good. He sighs, finally realizing the truth. Osoro had been so helpful and cooperative only because she wanted to come here all along for the food. She just giggles, confirming his suspicion. It all clicks into place in his mind. Hirotaka remembers the piece of meat his junk collection skill produced earlier and now understands that the leftover scrap was actually a piece of this country's famous monster cuisine. Osoro explains that just one single bite of that leftover meat caused her mana to recover dramatically, and she figures that if she eats a full meal here, her own depleted mana source will be fully restored. Hirotaka, amazed by this revelation, asks how she even knew about this place. Osoro hesitates for a moment, as if about to begin a long and complicated story from her distant past. A flashback shows a much younger, weaker Osoro running in absolute terror from a massive, vicious, three-headed boar monster. The scene abruptly cuts back to the present day in Elendia. Suddenly, a similar horde of monsters charges through the marketplace, sending the villagers running and screaming in panic. A young elven girl trips and falls right in the path of the terrifying stampede, and Rize instinctively tries to cast a protection spell, but her staff remains completely lifeless in her hands. She clutches her useless staff, a wave of pure despair washing over her as she is cruelly reminded of her own powerlessness. Her eyes widen in absolute fear, unable to do anything to help the poor, defenseless girl. The little elf girl on the ground can only watch in horror as the monstrous boars bear down on her. In a brilliant flash of dark, powerful energy, Hirotaka appears, his body once again taking on its temporary demon king form as he effortlessly punches the lead monster. His demonic fist slams directly into the beast's snout with incredible, bone-shattering force. His eye glows with an intimidating crimson light that radiates pure, absolute power. The entire horde of monsters stops dead in its tracks, and they stand before him, trembling with primal fear, completely pacified by his overwhelming, dominant aura. Hirotaka calmly turns to the little girl and tells her that it's okay now, that she is safe. The girl looks up at him, her fear instantly replaced by awe and immense gratitude, as she thanks him for saving her life. The other villagers gather around, completely amazed by the display. They whisper amongst themselves, wondering who this powerful and mysterious stranger is who could tame a horde of monsters with a single, powerful glare. Hirotaka panics, realizing that he has just revealed his secret identity to an entire town of strangers, and he frantically tries to think of a plausible excuse. But Osoro completely ruins any chance of secrecy he might have had. She happily and loudly announces to the entire crowd that he's so amazing because he's a real demon king. Hirotaka whips his head around and yells at her for blowing his cover so carelessly. The elves are completely stunned, whispering the words, "A demon king?" amongst themselves in disbelief. To Hirotaka's complete and utter surprise, their shock quickly turns into loud and enthusiastic cheers of pure excitement. They celebrate, saying it makes perfect sense that he's so strong, and they begin to praise him as their demon king Sama. Hirotaka is completely and totally bewildered by their reaction. He can't understand for the life of him why they are so happy to see a demon king. He asks one of the nearby villagers if they aren't scared of him, but the elf just laughs and says, "Of course not." The villagers explain with immense pride that their entire kingdom of Elendia has prospered and thrived, all thanks to the protection of their very own gluttony demon King Sama. Rachel is just as confused and bewildered as Hirotaka, her mind reeling from this impossible revelation. She can't comprehend what she's hearing, whispering the respectful title Demon King Sama, as if it's a phrase from a foreign language she doesn't understand. A group of elves pushes through the excited crowd, wondering what all the commotion is about. A young blonde elf in a pristine chef's uniform steps forward and instantly recognizes Rachel. He looks at her with a calm, unreadable expression and says, "So you came back." Rachel stares at him, her voice barely a whisper as she says his name, a name from her long-lost past. Jack. Hearing her famous name, the other elves erupt in a chorus of excitement, realizing that she is the legendary genius chef their own head chef, Jack, always talks about. The crowd immediately surrounds Rachel, completely amazed that the famous chef is not only real, but is also friends with the powerful new demon king. Rachel, completely overwhelmed by the chaos, grabs Jack by the shoulders and demands that he explain what is going on. Jack simply looks at her and tells her to come with him. He leads them away from the cheering crowd and into a large, grand building that looks like a royal palace. Inside the quiet palace, Rachel introduces her old friend to the group, explaining that his name is Jack. She explains that he was one of the few who managed to survive with her when a demon king completely destroyed their original homeland all those years ago. As they walk through the magnificent palace, she says that she never could have possibly imagined that the few survivors could have rebuilt a new home as incredible as this. She confronts Jack, her voice shaking with a mix of anger and confusion. She demands to know how it's possible. How could their people, who lost everything to a demon king, now be worshipping one? Jack calmly brushes her hand from his shoulder, his expression completely unchanged by her emotional outburst. He begins to explain the difficult and painful history of the New Elendia, telling her that after she left on her long journey for revenge, the remaining survivors faced an even greater crisis. He tells them that endless hordes of powerful monsters began to appear, making every day a desperate struggle for survival. It was during this desperate and hopeless time that they met the gluttony demon king, and a flashback shows the massive, clean-picked skeleton of a colossal monster. A much younger Jack stands before the gruesome carcass, completely disgusted by the sight. A small, shadowy demon figure appears, lounging casually on the bones as it asks Jack a simple, life-changing question. "Can you make this monster taste good?" Jack explains that from that day forward, he dedicated his entire life to researching and perfecting the lost art of monster cuisine. To his immense relief, the little demon king absolutely loved his cooking. And then, the story took a completely unexpected and strange turn. The little demon king asked Jack to become his personal, full-time chef. In exchange for his delicious cooking, the powerful demon king offered the surviving elves his complete and total protection. Jack finishes his incredible tale, explaining that under the demon king's watchful eye, the elves were able to rebuild their entire civilization without any fear of attack. Rachel is absolutely horrified by his story. She can't believe that her people would choose to align themselves with the very type of monster that had destroyed their lives and their home. Jack calmly defends their decision, stating that it was the only choice they had if they wanted to survive. He cuts off Rachel's argument, coldly telling her that she has no right to judge them, since she wasn't there to face the terrible hardships they endured. He then turns the accusation back on her, his eyes cold and sharp. He reminds her that she left their village vowing to one day defeat the demon king, yet here she is now, traveling around with a new one. Rachel tries to explain that Hirotaka is different from the other demon kings, but she can't seem to find the right words as Jack remains silent, waiting for an answer. Hirotaka and Rise watch the tense and emotional exchange, completely unsure of what to do or say. Hirotaka says Rachel's name, trying to offer his silent support to his friend. He looks down at his own hands, his mind racing with 100 different thoughts and worries. The terrible irony of the situation is overwhelming. This village was once completely destroyed by a demon king, and now it is ruled and protected by one. He clutches the hilt of his magic dagger, a nervous, anxious energy building inside him. A montage of his past, brutal battles flashes through his mind as he worries that if a fight breaks out here, he won't be strong enough to protect everyone he cares about. He sets his jaw, his resolve hardening as he prepares for the worst. Suddenly, a giant, comical-looking fish monster bursts through the wall and swallows both him and Jack whole, leaving Rise completely stunned and speechless. A huge cloud of smoke and debris fills the room as Rise and Rachel scream Hirotaka's name, fearing the worst. When the dust finally settles, Hirotaka and Jack are seen dangling precariously from the giant monster's mouth, both complaining about the sudden rude attack. A cheerful, childlike voice calls out to Jakshi, happy that he has finally returned. Jack, clearly annoyed by the interruption, asks the creature what it's doing out here. A small, imp-like demon is sitting on top of the giant fish, happily gnawing on a dismembered monster arm that it affectionately calls its little magic sword Chan. The little demon looks at Hirotaka's party and asks if they are Gisela's, Osoro's servants, to which Hirotaka can only mutter, "Who's the servant?" Hirotaka suddenly realizes what the demon just said and looks up in shock, questioning the strange words, magic sword. Osoro confirms his worst fears. This small, food-obsessed creature is the gluttony demon king with an endless stomach, and the current, undisputed ruler of Elendia. A fun, light-hearted flashback shows Osoro and the little demon king, Uga, cheerfully drinking together like old friends. The king's full formal name is finally revealed. Gluttony Demon King, King of Elendia, Uga Karasu. Back in the present, Jack is scolding Uga for letting the livestock monsters rampage through the town again, and Hirotaka is shocked to hear them referred to as livestock. Uga, now sitting comfortably on Jack's head, mentions that Osoro, or Giselashi, as he calls her, already told him all about their group. The grand doors to the royal dining hall swing open as Uga says he knows they've come to revive a dried-up mana, source, and he proudly presents a massive, round table laden with a magnificent and breathtaking feast, inviting them all to eat the kingdom's secret and legendary monster cuisine. Hirotaka is completely stunned, asking if all the incredible, delicious-looking dishes are really made from monster meat. Uga happily confirms that they are. Uga stuffs his face with a giant cooked octopus tentacle, casually mentioning that most uncooked monster meat actually tastes terrible. Rachel shudders at the memory, confirming that the taste is so awful and slimy that it can stick to your tongue for an entire month. Uga, now being held like a small child by his personal chef Jack, happily explains that thanks to him, he gets to enjoy an all-you-can-eat feast of delicious monster food every single day. Rise and Rachel look at Jack with a newfound, deep respect, completely amazed by his incredible and world-changing cooking skills. Hirotaka remarks that Uga is far more laid-back and friendly than he expected, especially when compared to the violent and aggressive Tristan. Osoro explains that demon kings come in all shapes and sizes, and Uga is the type who is happy as long as he has good food to eat. Hirotaka says that he understands that the dishes are made from monsters, but he still can't figure out why they have such a powerful and crazy mana-restoring effect. Uga, happily munching on a small dumpling, explains that all monsters, no matter how weak, have a much higher concentration of life energy than any normal creatures. He continues, saying that this is the natural result you get from something that was originally created by a demon king. Hirotaka is completely shocked by this revelation, repeating the words, "Created by a demon king?" Uga looks at him with genuine surprise, his mouth still full of food as he asks, "Oh, you didn't know?" Uga explains the ancient origin of all monsters. Long ago, a powerful being known as the Greed Demon King created all sorts of creatures just for fun, but he quickly got bored and abandoned them, leaving them to evolve on their own over centuries. Hirotaka finally understands the terrible implications. All the destruction and damage caused by monsters is ultimately the fault of a demon king. Rachel scoffs, declaring that demon kings are truly nothing but trouble. At the dining table, Rise begins to eat the monster cuisine with a fierce, unwavering determination, telling herself that she absolutely needs to get her mana back as soon as she possibly can. With a fire of desperation burning in her eyes, she declares that she can't call herself a mage if she can't use magic, and she refuses to remain weak and unable to protect anyone. Hirotaka watches her, deeply moved by her powerful and inspiring resolve. Seeing her fierce determination, he makes a decision for the whole party, announcing that they are all in this together and will eat as much monster food as it takes to help her recover. 1 hour later, Rize is lying on the floor, comically bloated and round like a balloon, as she moans that she can't possibly eat another single bite. Hirotaka is in the same sorry state, floating beside her as he groans that even after eating all that food, it still wasn't enough to fully restore her mana source. He confronts Osoro, angrily telling her that this isn't what she promised would happen, but she just smiles sweetly and reminds him that she only said it might work, not that it definitely would. Rachel looks on, completely unimpressed by their gluttonous failure, while the Demon King Uga just seems amused by the whole chaotic situation. Suddenly, Rachel's expression turns deadly serious, and she looks directly at Uga, asking him a chilling and logical question. What would happen if they ate him? She lays out her cold, hard logic. If all monsters were originally created by a demon king, then the life energy contained within an original source, the demon king himself, should be far greater and more potent than that of any mere monster. Uga, who had been listening with a blank, uninterested expression, is completely caught off guard by her brilliant idea. His eyes suddenly turn to glowing, excited stars as a wonderful new idea dawns on him. "True!" he shouts with glee. He excitedly grabs one of his own monstrous, demonic hands, affectionately calling it his little magic sword Kien-chan. He slams his own severed hand down onto a clean plate on the table with a loud thud. He then happily orders his personal chef, Jack, to cook it for him immediately, and Jack, completely unfazed by the bizarre request, simply agrees. Hirotaka and Rachel can only stare in utter disbelief, and Hirotaka mutters to himself that demon kings are completely and utterly insane. Rachel watches the unfolding, madness with a stern, judgmental, and slightly horrified look. A few moments later, Jack returns with the strange dish, announcing that the Demon King Palm is ready to be served. Uga's eyes sparkle with pure excitement, overjoyed that the dish is finally here. Hirotaka and Rize look on, a mix of horror and morbid curiosity on their faces. Uga takes a huge bite of his own cooked hand without a single moment of hesitation, exclaiming how incredibly delicious he is while Hirotaka looks like he's about to be sick. Rachel turns to a horrified Rize and sincerely apologizes, admitting that this whole disgusting situation is her fault for suggesting something so stupid in the first place. But Rize looks down at the plate, a strange new resolve forming in her eyes as she tells Rachel not to apologize, and that, in fact, she is grateful for the idea. She looks up, her expression a mix of sheer desperation and fierce determination, as she declares that if it means getting her mana back and being useful to her friends again, she is ready to do whatever it takes. A strange, powerful, and otherworldly energy begins to steam off the cooked Demon King hand. Rize sits before the plate, her fork and knife held tightly in her hands, ready to eat the most disgusting meal of her life for the sake of her friends and her future. Uga leans in close, noticing her hesitation, and asks if she's not going to eat it, before screaming in her ear and startling her. With a big, innocent smile, he asks if he can have it if she's not eating it. Rise lets out a small groan of pure disgust, but her resolve is firm as she lifts a piece of the hand on her fork. She closes her eyes and forces herself to take a bite. In that exact instant, a blinding pillar of pure white light erupts from the elven palace, shooting high into the sky and illuminating the entire forest. Outside the hidden village, the 7 holy heroes, who are tracking the new Demon King, see the brilliant flash of light. One asks if it was caused by the Demon King, while another says they don't know. One of the heroes, a woman, complains that she feels like she's the one doing all the hard work while the others just stand around and watch. A mysterious, disembodied voice tells her to hang in there, offering encouragement. The group is then shown walking through a bloody, war-torn forest, carrying the severed heads of their elven victims as the voice reminds them of their ultimate goal. They are going to be heroes. The leader's eyes glow with a hypnotic, unsettling spiral as he declares that once they get their hands on the magic sword, the stupid age of demon kings will finally be over. The final chilling image shows the so-called heroes surrounded by the bodies of those they have mercilessly slain, as their leader proclaims that they will be the ones to rule this world, and a new and terrible crisis draws near.